Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to a very special live stream here on NoDQ.com. We are going to be discussing the pandemic and WWE. We will be looking back at the WWE main roster pay-per-views from WrestleMania 36 all the way up to WrestleMania Backlash this year in 2021. We decided since WWE is going back on the road soon, we would look back on these pay-per-views and talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, and we're going to go through these pay-per-views, and at the end, we're going to come up with our final lists of these pay-per-views ranked from worst to best. And chat room, I would like to thank you all for tuning in. Thank you to everybody watching this, whether it's on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube. Feel free to leave a comment, and I will be posting your thoughts on the screen. Leave your thoughts on the pay-per-views, what you liked, what you didn't like, all that good stuff, and I will put some of the responses on the screen. We got Big Baller G here. Happy to be here as always. We got NoDQ Virtue, the greatest columnist, except for when Mr. Tito is really going all out and trying to be as controversial as possible. Then it's maybe a toss-up.
I'm the greatest NoDQ moderator of all time.
Well,
just say that.
Tito has nothing on that. And, of course, we got good old JM, Jeff Meacham. Jeff, I'm digging that shirt, brother.
Everybody has a price, even the Jeff Meacham Network.
All right. So on that note.
And thank you all for watching on Jeff Meacham Network, by the way. You're watching on our YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter right now. So we thank you for watching there as well. So leave the comments there. I'll put them up on my side, and off we go.
All right. We're all over the place. Let's go ahead and get started. We're going to kick it off with the start of the pandemic, COVID-19. Shut everything down. It was something out of the Twilight Zone, basically.
Pretty much.
Something that never happened in the wrestling business where there were no fans. WWE literally had a few weeks to come up with something. And thus, we had WrestleMania 36, which was, as they dubbed it, too big for one night. So they made it 2 nights. We're going to start with the first night of WrestleMania, night 1. It was at the Performance Center in Orlando, Florida. Of course, WWE had several matches in the PC with no fans. The main event was a cinematic match. WWE decided to think outside the box. We had The Undertaker versus AJ Styles in a boneyard match. Back then, I did not give these pay-per-views a letter grade, night 1 and night 2 of WrestleMania, because I felt it was unfair under the circumstances. And Jeff Meacham has...
No, I'm here. I'm trying to get situated here. Sorry.
All right. Looks like we're having some issues with Jeff Meacham. We're only 5 minutes
No. I got it. I'm all right. I'm back. Put this, take the screen down. I'm okay.
All right, Jeff is back. All right, Jeff, I'm going to throw it over to you. So your thoughts on night 1 of WrestleMania 36. We had some cool moments. Yes. Kevin Owens, he was unable to jump off the pirate ship at Raymond James Stadium, which is something he wanted to do for WrestleMania 36. But he did get to jump off the big sign. We had Braun Strowman beating Goldberg, and I know that's a highlight for you. And
Definitely.
How funny is that? How funny is that 1 year later, Braun Strowman, after beating Goldberg, would be released from WWE? So anyways, Jeff, your thoughts on night 1 of WrestleMania, and what was your letter grade?
Oh, God. Okay, well, I enjoyed the main event, of course. You know, I mean, we all love The Undertaker in this room, and I have a very deep respect and regard for The Undertaker and for Percy, which, you know, we'll get a Survivor Series in my ball fest later. But the match with AJ was one of those things where you have to send him off the right way, and it was the best way to send him off. It was an amazing presentation. It's ironic you mentioned Goldberg because he almost Goldberged his damn arm on the hearse window. It's like, did we not learn from mistakes from Billy Boy? Really? Come on, Taker, give me a break. But that was a great match. Braun decimating Goldberg in 2 minutes was fantastic. I love that part. Owens and Rollins going nearly 18 minutes. And yeah, who would have thought you'd ever see anybody dive off the WrestleMania sign? But it happened. and it was a sight to be. And Kevin is no cruiserweight. I mean, we've watched Kevin come up, through the indies there, and he's a big, solid dude. So to see him do that was incredible. The one thing that I kind of was like, okay, whatever over. Two things actually. The triple threat match for the tag championship was the singles 3-way. It's like, okay. I mean, I get people were hurt, but they should have found another way to do it. I thought that was silly, personally. And I still say, and I will say it till my dying day, that Shayna Baszler should have beat Becky Lynch. Because Becky was going to bow out anyway. We didn't know at the time, obviously, but she was going to bow out anyway. And Shayna being champion for that period of time would have way altered her trajectory to compared to what it is right now, which is she's fighting the Puppet Master on Sunday. Okay. Whatever. But look where Alexa Bliss was a year and a half ago. She was winning the tag team championships in the opening match, and now she's crazy. Overall letter grade, I think I'll give it a solid A. It was a really good show. I only had minor faults with 2 matches. Everything else was really solid. So I'll give it a level A.
All right. Psycho Jet Black with a $2 super chat says, one positive is that we dodged Roman Reigns versus Bill Goldberg.
Don't count that out yet. He still has 2 more matches on that contract of his.
Good point.
Just saying.
Correct. All right. We're going to throw it over to Big Baller G with his thoughts on WrestleMania 36 Night 1.
Overall, it was the first of its kind. We didn't have any fans. And it was very interesting to see with no fans. It was completely quiet, except, you could hear the guys in the ring. And, the match that stood out to me the most, I would have to say it was the cinematic match. It was Undertaker's farewell match. Metallica at the end was perfect for it. Him pretty much riding off in the sunset with his motorcycle was just like perfect. I believe that was the last time we saw Gallows and Anderson in WWE.
It was.
So, they got thrown off the roof. I think they both got thrown off the roof. Jeff said he didn't like that triple threat match, but I enjoyed it. All 3 are very athletic. It was, it was good for what it was, and for having a ladder match with no fans, it was good. I believe Shayna Baszler's downfall was WrestleMania 36 Part 1. That's where, for me, it kind of started going downhill with Shayna. Yeah, she's been a 2-time women's tag champs with Nia Jax since then, but she had just won the Elimination Chamber the month before and dominated everybody, but couldn't beat Becky. Okay.
She won the chamber by her damn self.
Thank you very much. And the women's match, Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross versus the Kabuki Warriors was good as well. So, and I did enjoy Sami Zayn versus Daniel Bryan as well.
Yes, I did.
Very good match for the Intercontinental title. 2 workhorses going for the workhorse title. Overall, my grade would be a solid A as well. I had some tweaks about it, but overall, it was a solid A for me.
All right. Well, my issue with WrestleMania Night 1 and Night 2, the empty arena brought it down. But again, the effort was there. Everybody tried their best to make it a memorable show. I think compared to WrestleMania 37, not quite as memorable, but still, I think a better than average WrestleMania. I'm giving it a B+. To me, the match that has the most replay value is the cinematic match. Maybe my all-time favorite cinematic match. So B+ for Night 1 of WrestleMania. And now we'll throw it over to Virtue with his thoughts.
We got 15 pay-per-views to cover. 2 of them have 2 nights. So this is going to be bullet points for me. Owens versus Rollins was the best regular match of that first night, obviously. Good for Kevin Owens there and getting a spot.
Yep.
Strowman squashing Goldberg was phenomenal. And it shows you how important Goldberg really isn't, because Strowman's now gone from WWE.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, Becky most likely recorded that match while with a fetus inside of her. It was really early, but that's amazing.
Right.
And she won. So, I'm going to say props to that, And it's a healthy born baby now. So, and, of course, the Boneyard match was phenomenal, even though AJ lost. And Jeremy Borash all that vision that he had in TNA at the low budget with the Hardys, he really got to shine here with this one. And I believe that he had a lot to do with this. And Undertaker got to ride off into the sunset. B. I'm very critical on these, but a B for night one, a solid B.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Now, Jeff.
I was gonna say, BG mentioned the Metallica song. I added that song to my playlist immediately after WrestleMania. The lyrics fit so well. Now that we're dead, my dear, we can be together. It's like, dude, that's like his song to Michelle. It's like, now that he's dead, here I'm coming home. It was just so perfect. Such a perfect way to frame that match. Great job.
All right. Now we move on to night 2 of WrestleMania 36.
I love it.
All right, so I'll start off on this one. Night 2, I thought was a little bit weaker than night 1. The Firefly Funhouse match, if you want to call it a match, was probably the highlight of it, along with Drew McIntyre finally capturing the championship, reaching the top of the mountain. Unfortunately, no fans, which brought it down a little bit, but still, one big moment after another on this 2-night event. But I do think night 1 was slightly better. I'm giving night 2 a B-, but I'm going to throw it over to Big G and see what he thought of night 2. Do you think night 1 was stronger or night 2? I'm going with night 1. What do you think?
In my opinion, night 1 was a little bit better than night 2. Night 2, Edge versus Randy Orton in the last man standing match. Edge's, not his first. Well, his first singles match, if you want to consider it a singles match against Randy Orton. It was very good. There was no fans, so what did they do? They pretty much fought all the way through the Performance Center and outside where the trucks are and stuff like that, so that was very good. And obviously the Firefly Funhouse match was very well done. I still think that the Boneyard match was better, but I enjoyed seeing Wyatt and Cena interact, and Cena bringing out the NWO stuff in his old gear, and Wyatt and, the puppet Vince, back and forth. That was cool. And then lastly, Drew McIntyre and Brock Lesnar was good too. It was from what I'm reading, it was a 4-minute 35 match, and it was very good. So I would give WrestleMania night 2 I'm going to go with the solid B.
Okay. Yeah, I was a little disappointed with that Randy Orton and Edge match, but that's just me personally. I thought it went on way too long. Virtue, what did you think about night 2?
I liked the Edge versus Orton match, but yes, it did. I won't disagree that it did not go on too long because it did.
It was a 36-minute match.
The Fiend and Cena segment, if it wasn't promoted as a match, I loved it, but I was kind of thinking match, at least what we got with night 1 with AJ and Undertaker, and it really was more like a segment. Drew and Brock is my biggest problem. I did enjoy Rhea Ripley and Charlotte, believe it or not. I know a lot of people were questionable on that match, but Brock, that should have been I wanted to see a long match, and obviously he might not have wanted to do it because of the pandemic and no fans there, but that was under 5 minutes. When I see Brock, I want to see something a little bit better than that. And I just thought it was lackluster. Therefore, because that's the main event of the show, I gave night 2 a C. My overall grade for WrestleMania, 36, B-.
All right. Good old JM Jeff Meacham, your thoughts?
Virtue makes a great point about the main event. The main event was shorter than the dark match. Or the pre-show match. That's ridiculous. When Liv Morgan and Natty go longer than Brock Lesnar, no offense to either one of those girls, that's ridiculous. Yeah. Brock Lesnar's been the solid box office world champion for the better part of this last decade, and he's jobbing in under 5 minutes. Come on. That's horrible. And because it was the main event, it did bring the show down 100%. If they'd ended with the Firefly Funhouse and signed off right there, I'm good with it. Because Bray, quote unquote, got his win back from John from whatever it was, 2014, and it was such a entertaining presentation. I loved every bit of that part of that show. I didn't enjoy Charlotte's win as much as I thought I would. We all know how much I love Charlotte Flair, but it just wasn't necessary for her to be the NXT champion. So I was like, okay, you had a moment to make Rhea here. and you beat her. Like it didn't ring true for me. The SmackDown match also, Bayley overcomes everybody, and we still didn't get the Sasha turn until much later. It was like, oh, come on, guys, you keep not pulling the trigger on Sasha for a big moment at the big show. It's like it astounds me that they keep doing that to her. The Raw Tag Title match was good, not great. I mean, again, 6.5 minutes for a tag team title match on WrestleMania. That's, even in the pandemic era, that's not okay. Edge and Orton going 37 minutes in basically a cinematic type match, last man standing. It was very, very long, and I felt that if you reverse the matches, if you take their Backlash match and put it at WrestleMania and go the other way, then it makes more sense for me. I'm going to agree with Virtue and go way down from my solid A. I'm going down to a B minus for this night. So I will say overall grade ends up being a B plus, I guess, right? That averages out. So B plus.
Yeah.
For WrestleMania.
Let's face it, no Roman really hurt the show for me.
It really, and I know how you have the affinity for Roman. I actually agree with you, though, because if Roman is on that show and faces Goldberg, much as I detest Goldberg, that's the money match we've been built for. And then they bring Braun in. And like you said, Virtue, you made an excellent point. We see how useless Goldberg really is because Braun's gone a year later.
All right.
You make him by putting him over big old Bill Goldberg, and now they release him a year later. Okay,
Yep.
Sure.
All right. So after WrestleMania, WWE continued to try to figure out what to do and how to produce television. Next up, we had the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, and WWE once again trying to go outside the box. They came up with this idea to do the Money in the Bank ladder matches both at the same time at the Titan Tower, Stamford, Connecticut, WWE headquarters, and they had these silly taglines that they started using for the pay-per-views. This one was, "The risk is worth the reward."
Climb the corporate ladder.
Yeah, exactly. So it was entertaining, but yeah, the card at the Performance Center was pretty weak in my opinion. You had Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins, his first successful defense. You had Braun Strowman defending against the Fiend Bray Wyatt when Bray was just doing Mr. Rogers. And yeah, it was tough to watch without the crowd. The Money in the Bank ladder match, I would say, was the highlight, but I don't think it was as good of a cinematic match as the Boneyard match. So, Big G, since you're on your phone right now, I'm going to put you on the spot first here, and let's get your thoughts. By the way, I give Money in the Bank a B minus.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Aaron. Wasn't it Strowman versus Fiend? Wasn't it Bray Wyatt at the next pay-per-view, Backlash?
Yep.
Yeah, this was the Fiend. He defeated the Fiend
at Money in the Bank.
At Money in the Bank.
In a regular match.
Yes, correct. So yeah, when we first heard that WWE was gonna do Money in the Bank at headquarters, I was like, okay, this is different. This is intriguing. And they both had the male and female wrestlers at the same exact time. And, they did different cutscenes and stuff like that. I liked the scene with AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan interacting with Vince. I think Asuka had jumped off the ledge onto the women. They were just standing around there like they usually do, waiting for Asuka to jump. But, and then we get to the top of this roof, and we had, who was it? Corbin threw Ray and somebody else over the
Aleister Black.
Aleister Black over the roof. That was, I don't know what they were thinking. And then,
pretty telling a year later with Aleister Black.
Right. And I thought the wrong person won both Money in the Bank ladder matches. I think AJ Styles should have kept the briefcase and not dropped it and have Otis, look where that led to. We'll talk about that here soon. But I believe Shayna should have won the Money in the Bank briefcase to make up for WrestleMania. But we saw how that ended up the next night on Raw. Instead of winning the Money in the Bank briefcase, she won the Raw Women's title because Becky, we found out, was pregnant. Overall, I really didn't like the show per se, so I'm going to give it a C minus.
All right. Well, we do have a few super chats here. The Game is on 100 sent in $5. Thank you for that. Says, what was the point of the Firefly Funhouse match to get the Fiend over, but it hurt the Fiend during the year with the title loss and burned by Orton to lose?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, I think before the pandemic, the idea was that the Fiend would have beaten John Cena in a regular match and Cena would have gone off to Hollywood. But yeah, even that, like, the Fiend would have eventually just gotten jobbed out, and they did all these different things, and we'll get to it. We got these other pay-per-views. We'll talk more about what happened with the Fiend. And Psycho Jet Black sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, who is the worst Money in the Bank winner? Otis, Mr. Kennedy, Damian Sandow, or Baron Corbin? Also, why didn't they have Becky Lynch vacate the title? Jeff, you want to take this one?
Absolutely. Okay, so the worst is Corbin by far. And I say that because Kennedy would have cashed in at 24 when I went in Orlando, because that was they were going to roll with it. Then they had the whole scandal, and they had to get the briefcase off him, and they gave it to Edge. But Edge cashing in on The Undertaker made for amazing television for another year and a half. So I'm okay with that. Who's the other choice besides Corbin and Kennedy?
Oh, real quick, just to clarify with people, it was the Mr. Rogers Bray Wyatt and Money in the Bank.
It says the Fiend on Wikipedia, so I don't know why that's
well.
wrong.
You did not go back and watch it. He was in the Mr. Rogers gear.
Well, then they need to alter their damn descriptions on Wikipedia. They're idiots. Anyway.
Well, why do you trust Wikipedia in the first place?
I don't trust Wikipedia. I'm just going, just so I have the match listed in front of me, because I did watch it. I just forgot.
And you don't remember it.
I don't.
Yeah, that's how lackluster it was.
Exactly. That's how. But put it this way: this show is the second lowest show on my list. Put it that way. It was bad. Anyway, as far as between Otis and Corbin, at least Otis having it got us to have what we had later, which I was okay with Miz being Money in the Bank again. Corbin literally got punked by John Cena and rolled up by Jinder Mahal. That was his Money in the Bank. Have a nice day, King Corbin. Thank you very much. So bad. So bad. This entire show is a train wreck, and I mean that with no respect whatsoever. Hardy and Cesaro is the pre-show, going 13 minutes. The tag team title, another multi-team match for the SmackDown tag titles. Can't we just have 2-on-2 guys? Can we just, oh no, we got everybody their spot on TV. Well, if you get people over on TV, you don't need to cram on the one damn match, you blithering idiots. Here's how far Lashley's come. He beat R-Truth in a minute and a half on this show. And what was it, May? Yeah. Again, Bayley with Sasha riding her coattails again, helping her out, defeats Tamina. It's just a bad show. C-, easy.
All right.
No, I'm sorry. I'll say second lowest. Yeah, C-. That's fine.
I'm curious to see if Virtue goes even lower than you. Virtue, what do you think?
So the Strowman versus Wyatt match, it just goes to show you what they had to do to just mess with Wyatt. Like, they couldn't just have him be the Fiend and clearly beat Strowman and give him the title then. Or even as just regular Funhouse Bray. Like, Bray should have been the champion after this show. Strowman clearly, they didn't believe in him. They never did. Nobody really mentioned McIntyre versus Rollins. Was that not a good match this show? I believe it was.
Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah, I mean,
it was.
If you had to pick a best match of the show,
right,
that was a pretty good match.
Yeah, but unlike WrestleMania 13, one match a show does not save.
No, I agree, but I just wanted to make sure I gave that a mention.
Oh yeah,
because,
for sure.
Rollins has been in the zone when it comes to good matches.
Rollins and McIntyre have been McIntyre more so, but Rollins has been an understated MVP throughout this whole mess.
And I like Asuka winning. I thought that was a good choice. Of course, the way that happened where she just got the title from the briefcase because Becky was out the next night on Raw, or I think they did that the next night on Raw, whatever. Yeah. But I do like that choice. I know Big G wanted Shayna. Otis was just a complete stupid. There was not even any shock value there. I mean, he lost the briefcase. He was so dumb. He put it on the line and lost it to the Miz. I mean, that just shows you that's the worst Money in the Bank win ever.
Yeah.
I mean, Sorry, Jeff. I know you didn't like Corbin's, but at least he got a chance to cash it in.
But just the whole way he lost the title match was so bad. At least Otis winning it got it to Miz, which then got it to Lashley, and Lashley's been solid this year for my money. So,
but I mean, that Money in the Bank's supposed to be like that exciting moment where you cash it in, and Otis, nobody expected he was winning. So C minus for this show.
Yeah.
The reason why I didn't go lower is because McIntyre and Rollins, that good match,
right,
made me not give it a D. So there it is.
All right, guys, we talked about some good matches, but now it's time to talk about the greatest wrestling match ever. At Backlash, we had Randy Orton versus Edge, their rematch from WrestleMania. And this is when WWE started to try and tweak things a bit with the Performance Center. They started bringing in the Performance Center recruits. They started piping in noise. This was actually the first big match where they piped in noise, and then that became a regular thing with the Thunderdome. But yeah, this was a bit of a turning point in the pandemic era when WWE started to find new ways to bring some life to these pay-per-view events. And this was a pre-taped match and, a long match, but they had a hell of a match. I'm not sure it was the greatest match of all time, but they had a really solid match. So, Virtue, we're going to go right back to you on this one. Your thoughts on Backlash?
There wasn't much memorable from this show. McIntyre versus Lashley, of course. So little did we know what would happen with Lashley becoming the champion later on down the road, but here it was still McIntyre's time. And then, of course, the greatest wrestling match. And what I was disappointed about, it was a good match. It was edited. Unfortunately, Edge got hurt during the recording of this.
Yeah.
But remember, did they not say they were going to do all these tricky things with the camera and make it seem like, I feel like we didn't get anything. Wasn't there like one top-down view? Like,
yeah.
It just felt like it was an empty promise. And I was expecting there to be cooler things edited into this match because we knew it was recorded, and it just didn't come across that way to me. And that's all I really want to remember from this show. And I gave it a D+.
Ooh, man.
Wow. D+. I'm a little surprised.
And we're on a roll here.
Yeah.
After this one,
well,
that's just telling you for the next one.
I would not go that far. I actually gave it a B at the time, and I thought it was a good pay-per-view overall. I did really enjoy the main event, and it was a fairly short show. And one good thing, I will say this, one good thing about the pandemic is that we finally got some shorter pay-per-views.
Yes,
I think going forward, they're going to do shorter pay-per-views too now.
I don't know if it's going to last now that WWE is going back on tour, but I liked the fact that we were done after 3 hours for a main roster pay-per-view. Sometimes they went even less than that. Sometimes they went like 2.5 hours, 2 hours, 45 minutes. And I liked that. Now, another interesting note on this show was the first Bobby Lashley, Drew McIntyre match for the WWE title that we all are supposed to forget about, where Drew McIntyre beat him. But they did start building up Lashley after this pay-per-view. So now I'm going to throw it over to Jeff. And I gave the show a solid B. So quite a bit better than what Virtue gave it. Jeff, your thoughts?
With hindsight, do you still give it a B now?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was solid.
Okay.
I mean, you got to remember, guys, no Roman in these shows. Oh, it's going to affect the grades. Again, not WWE's fault, but
no. So I liked the Edge Orton match, but I thought the billing was so stupid. And I'll make it very simple. Virtue will back me up on this because there's this whole, what's the greatest matches of all time? Is it the Flair Steamboat matches? Is it the Okada Omega matches? I don't think this match surpassed either of those series for me. So I don't know where you guys stand on that, but
Jeff, they did such a great job editing the Boneyard match at WrestleMania. I figured this would have looked cooler with edits.
Yeah, I mean, if they're going to present it as the greatest wrestling match of all time, and they have the chance to edit it, it fell short for me. It really did. McIntyre Lashley, the first time they're at match number 40, I think now. Strowman beats Miz and Morrison. There's something there too, because where was Miz and Morrison at WrestleMania, and where was Strowman after WrestleMania? So there you go. Asuka's first pay-per-view defense ends in 8.5 minutes on a double countout. Okay, that's way to build your champion strong. Sheamus and Jeff Hardy for the 3,000th time, I think, at that point.
Right.
Bayley and Sasha beat the Iconics, no longer in the company, and Alexa and Nikki, no longer a team. Cool. And then the U.S. Championship is Apollo Crews, not quite Nigerian yet, defeating Andrade with Angel, Zelina, and everybody else who none of them with the company anymore. So cool, dude. I think Virtue's D+ is pretty safe, but I will say C- because it's not near that far down the list for me. But it was a very bad show.
The way you described it made it sound like one of the worst pay-per-views.
Okay. Okay. The thing is, Aaron, you pointed out it was a short show. The main event was almost an hour by its damn self. So, figure entrances and everything, that you have an hour for that match. So, of course, it's going to be a short show because everything else is going to go 5 minutes to make go. Come on.
The main event carried this show. I mean,
the main event carried this show, but as I said, it had so much to live up to. It was not Flair Steamboat. It was not Okada Omega. It was definitely not even Austin Brett from WrestleMania 13. So, I don't think it was the greatest thing that ever was. So.
And Edge got hurt too.
Yeah, and we shit all over this thing so much on Greg's show because he made the greatest trivia mind. We totally parodied it, and we sold more of that shit. I think we did anything else because it was such a farcical thing that it was the greatest match ever. No, it wasn't. It was good, but it wasn't the greatest ever. Jeff's Berry Backlash. Well, you know what? Considering they called it WrestleMania Backlash a year later, I think it was buried all on its own. Thank you very much.
We all love Salty Jeff.
Salty Jeff is here tonight because he's had a very bad day today. So,
all right, DJW with a $5 super chat. Thank you. I appreciate it. Says, I feel like it was 50-50 booking when Lashley beat McIntyre for the title. Fans shouldn't have been shocked because Lashley lost their first match.
Well, but as you said, Aaron, we've been programmed to forget that match.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So
and that happened before the pandemic even started. We were always like, this didn't happen. Shh, go away.
I know Big G's trying to cut back on his salt a little bit. Big G, you going to say something positive about the greatest wrestling match of all time?
I love it.
So they billed it as the greatest wrestling match ever, and I don't think it lived up to its expectation.
What? You don't say.
Nice analysis.
Solid point there.
So
slouching. Set up straight, G. Damn it, you're slouching. Killing me.
Oh my god! Can I speak?
The Fink's introduction was awesome, though.
Yes.
So it was a good match. It was a great match, but it wasn't the greatest ever. And they did what they could with the edits, and them doing the thing from the top camera was okay, but other than that, I mean, it wasn't everything. I think they hyped it up way too much before the match even happened. Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley the first time was good, but now, here we are a year and a half later, and they're fighting at this pay-per-view this coming Sunday. So, yeah, it's... Other than that, I mean, the other matches were pretty decent from what I remember, so I'm going to give it a solid C.
Okay, so I must have overrated this pay-per-view because you guys are pretty down on it.
Do you not think, Aaron, that they overhyped this match way too much?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely did, but I still thought
don't get me wrong, Edge and Orton are very good at what they do, but, they should have had it just a regular match and not all this cinema editing and all this other stuff, and just had it a regular singles match. And I like what Jeff said earlier. They should have had the singles match at WrestleMania and pretty much flip-flop it, and then have the last man standing as a cinematic match at Backlash. I almost said WrestleMania Backlash, but
programming. I would like to state for the record that Big G said they did what they could with the edits, which is completely false. But go ahead, you sit on that, Big G. You go with that. They could have done so many different things in this match. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. You guys ready to move on here?
Yes. And
We
it's
got
only going to get
more-
worse.
One more Performance Center show to get through, and boy, oh boy.
Oh Lord, here we go.
I think I know which pay-per-view people are going to rank at the bottom here. I just have a sneaking suspicion.
That's right.
We have Extreme Rules, the horror show. We had an eye for an eye match. Seth Rollins versus Rey Mysterio. What a feud that was. We had a swap fight between Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman, which started the beginning of Alexa Bliss's turn into the character that we all know and love now. And we had some other...
Hey, she's selling her cameos unlike Charlotte, so, you know.
I looked back at my
Right.
recap. I looked back at my recap, and at the time I was like, there's some things I liked, some things I didn't like. And it was my lowest. I'm just going to say this. It was my lowest letter grade of these pandemic pay-per-views. I ended up giving it... What did I give it? I gave Extreme Rules a C, which is probably going to be surprising for you guys. I see people get on my case all the time. They say I'm anti WWE and I'm always negative about everything that WWE does.
It's not true.
And they always say I'm positive pro WWE. I'm giving D's here.
Yeah, because they always think you're sucking up to well, I don't know who you're sucking up to. Roman Reigns, I guess.
This poor guy's sitting at home, you know, just trying to recover, and he gave it a D- and said it was horrible. So there, I'm just saying, you know, God, terrible show.
All right, so
I love the chat room. I love you guys.
There's a $5 chat here from Tommy. He gave no comment, but thank you for that. And if you want to leave a comment, we'll try to throw it up on the screen for you.
It's a euro, so we'll see if he can. Yeah,
there's a lot of negative
250.
ones. I must have really been generous with this pay-per-view letter grade, but yeah, it had some rough moments. Before we get to Salty Jeff, I'm going to save Salty Jeff for last.
Okay.
Let's go over to Virtue, who's a little less salty than Jeff, but maybe not when it comes to this pay-per-view.
This will be simple. Well, I don't want to hear what Jeff's grade is. Okay, Rey Mysterio versus Rollins and an eyeball. Whatever shot that was of that eyeball. I mean, an eye for an eye match. Come on, we had the magic. God. We had the magic of Rick Martel versus Jake the Snake in a blindfold match because of what happened back then. And then they eye for an eye, like we're really to believe someone's eye is going to get poked out. And then of course Wyatt and Strowman. They ruined the whole Wyatt mystique with that. You know, all the different things they've done with him with the Orton match, with the images on the ring. What was that other one they had? The horror in the. What was that other match they had before?
The freaking cage match with all the freaking...
Randy Orton versus Wyatt way back. In the house of whatever. The
House of Horror match.
Is that what that one was? And this show is called The Horror Show?
Yeah.
It just, you know...
It was a horror show, all right.
There's nothing more to say because we got so much more to cover. D-. But I refuse to give anything an F during the pandemic because of the effort of the workers. But this was the lowest graded one. D-. You're not going to hear me say anything lower than this the rest of the time, but guess who's coming back soon? Roman Reigns. D-. Next.
Jeff?
Was it my turn? Okay. All right.
Yeah, Salty Jeff time.
Okay. I decided to fall in the line with Virtue and not give anything an F because you're right. These guys are busting their ass in a really strange situation. It's rough for everybody. The SmackDown Tag Title match was decent, but when you had the New Day and Cesaro and Nakamura, it needs to be better than decent, and it wasn't. Bayley beating Nikki for again, you know, Bayley's just. I enjoyed the Bayley Sasha thing for the year, but it was like okay, fine. I will say this about the eye for an eye match: when you become fodder for Scott D'Amore on Impact's wrestling show, that's how low you sunk, brother. Okay. Just saying. Awful. Asuka and Sasha ends in a no contest. Why can't Asuka have a finish on pay-per-view? This is my whole problem with this whole booking with her. They give her the championship because Becky's pregnant instead of giving it to Shayna the previous month, and then they book Asuka into freaking oblivion all year. Just terrible. The McIntyre Ziggler thing was really ridiculous. It was Extreme Rules only for Ziggler. McIntyre had to wrestle normal rules, and had he got counted disqualified, he would have lost championship. It was such bad booking. And that swamp fight again. You know, you have Strowman beat the almighty Bill Goldberg and put him over. And then this feud with Bray just brings both of them to a screeching halt.
Mm-hmm.
The only person that benefited from that entire feud was Alexa Bliss. D-, easy.
Okay.
Damn near an F if I wasn't in agreement with Virtue on the whole.
What did you give this, Aaron? A C?
Yeah, I did.
At least you didn't say like an A or a B, you know.
True, very true.
Yeah, I mean, it was the worst pandemic WWE pay-per-view, probably the worst pandemic pay-per-view period from any promotion. That this guy Experience sent in a $5 super chat, says, Drew McIntyre is a sore loser. When Bobby Lashley lost, he went to the back of the line and built himself back up. When Drew lost twice, he keeps making excuses. Real hero.
But he's carrying on the tradition of William Wallace. He's the Braveheart of WWE. Shut that crap up. This guy's right, 100%.
And then Drew McIntyre's got to come out and give his long-winded speeches every week. And
I swear to God, if McIntyre wins on Sunday, I'm going to shit a brick. I swear to God I am, Aaron. Oh, my God.
Well,
anyway.
Let's go over to Big G. Big G, your thoughts on...
What else do I need to say? I mean... My fiance, who's not a big wrestling fan, she watched this show with me, and she even thought the eye for an eye match was a complete waste of time. She just said it wasn't believable, and I have to agree with that. You know, I didn't even notice, the eye coming out. I was like, what just happened? You know, they just showed some fake eye. I was like, really? You have all this money. You know, you do this great cinematic match with The Undertaker, and you go to this? Use some effects, people.
You have an entire film division under your umbrella. What the hell? Why?
And then the Swamp match, completely just, ruined everything for me, for The Fiend at the time. And the only decent match I could think of was the tables match.
Oh, jeez.
So overall, I'm going to be a little bit more generous. I'm going to give it a solid D.
So, two things I want to ask, Aaron. You're a horror fan. Is Swamp Thing in the Universal Monsters group?
I think so.
How do you not have Swamp Thing on this match? How is Swamp Thing not in this match if you're working with NBC Universal? How is that not a thing, number one? Number two, I just got a $25 super chat over on my end from Mike D. Thank you very much, Mike. He says, hey, Jeff, put this toward your SummerSlam ticket. Well, the ticket's bought. I appreciate that, but I will definitely put it toward a SummerSlam T-shirt or something like that. There you go. Very good. Thank you, Mike. I really appreciate that, brother. Thank you.
And I agree with Mr. Tito. Like Seth Rollins and Rey Mysterio, I thought, given the ridiculous nature of the stipulation, they had a damn good match. They managed to find a way to make it dramatic, but yeah, the ending was just so goofy and over the top. Now, Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat, says that Ziggler-McIntyre match was a waste of time. And again, I thought they did the best they could. The stipulation was ridiculous, and just the idea of Dolph Ziggler getting a title match was absurd. But I felt like they did what they could to try to make it entertaining. But yeah, we'll move on. I think we're all in agreement that was the worst, and it went uphill from here because WWE invested the money. They realized the pandemic was not going to be ending anytime soon. Thus, they created their own virtual arena known as the Thunderdome. And it would go on to be critically acclaimed, award-winning Thunderdome. What are you laughing at, Big G? Are you saying it's not an award-winning Thunderdome? Are you suggesting through your laughter?
I just realized we're only on SummerSlam.
Right? It's already 5:45. But I can give two words why Virtue's going to say this pay-per-view started the incline.
Yeah, well, Jeff is definitely starting his dinner before this live stream.
And by the way, give me one moment.
Either.
Aaron, you continue this because we're moving to SummerSlam, but I'm going to get my charger because we're going to be on all night. So I'm just putting my avatar on for a second.
We're going to be here a while. So anyways,
I'll be right back.
Got the brand new Thunderdome set up for SummerSlam, which is one of their big pay-per-views of the year. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about SummerSlam. And as Virtue mentioned a few moments ago, without Roman, it definitely caused these pay-per-views to be lacking something. There was a void without Roman being there. But then, lo and behold, he's back. Shocking conclusion to the end of the SummerSlam pay-per-view. Roman Reigns makes his return at SummerSlam, interfering in the main event match between Braun Strowman and The Fiend, Bray Wyatt. And on this pay-per-view, we also had the WWE Championship match, Drew McIntyre defending against Randy Orton. I thought that this was a really good pay-per-view. I thought that this was, up to this point, the best pandemic show. You had Dominic Mysterio. Actually, was that? No, it was SummerSlam. I sometimes blend in SummerSlam and Payback because they were back to back, but this was Dominic Mysterio's first outing against Seth Rollins. I thought they had a really good match. You had a lot of solid matches on this show. Asuka and Sasha Banks. Like I thought this SummerSlam, I gave it an A. And I remember saying when I did the recap that the only thing keeping it from like an A+ was the fact that there was no crowd. If they did that show with a crowd, like to me, that would have been a top tier SummerSlam. That would have been maybe the best SummerSlam of all time. It was damn good. So I enjoyed it. The Thunderdome, it took a little getting used to, but it gave the show a unique atmosphere, and that made it fun to watch as well. So yeah, I really liked SummerSlam a lot. Big G, let's throw it over to you. Your thoughts on the show?
So overall, I thought it was a decent show. You know, Asuka had 2 championship matches. The first was against Bayley, and she lost, and then she beat Sasha to reclaim the Raw Women's Championship. Dominic having his first match with Seth was okay. You know, Seth pretty much helped Dominic through the match and whatnot. Mandy versus Sonya was a decent match. The main event, Drew and Orton was great as well. And then the main event was a Falls Count Anywhere match? Yeah, Falls Count Anywhere match, which I thought was okay. You know, this is the third match between Strowman and The Fiend. And then after the match was over, nobody saw it coming. I don't even think Virtue saw this coming. Roman Reigns came out of nowhere and, like his shirt said, wreck everyone and leave. And that's what he did. And that's what set up, we'll talk here shortly, then for the next pay-per-view. But overall, I would give the pay-per-view, I'd give it a solid, I'll go with the solid A. If Roman Reigns showing up.
We got some mods in our chat, by the way, do we? I hope.
Roman Reigns set it up.
Do we have mods in our chat?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Virtue, what do you think about this pay-per-view with the big dog coming back?
So, you know, Bayley keeping her title against Asuka, and then later Asuka beating Sasha. That was a good dynamic for what would end up coming later. So I like how they did that. Rollins versus Dominic, you know, I was kind of like wondering how Dominic was going to look here. You know, it was a street fight, right? It was a street fight.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I thought that for being green, you know, he delivered. And that kind of match, you know, that's usually a little bit easier. McIntyre and Orton, this is about the time I really felt, you know, it sucked for McIntyre not having fans all this time. Obviously, we felt that back to WrestleMania. But Orton, this is where I started feeling like he's having one hell of a run. And we'll talk about that a couple more shows from now. And, of course, Fiend wins the title from Strowman here. Didn't last long, but that's because Roman returned. And little did we know at the time what it turned into today with the Acknowledge Him, Tribal Chief, head of the table gimmick. The end of SummerSlam, I had that buzz that without fans, it wasn't quite the same in attendance, but I had that buzz. I was like, holy crap. They never did it with Cena. What are we going to get here? Still very critical, but a B+. I think that's a hell of a grade, don't you?
Yeah.
Pretty solid. All right, Jeff Meacham.
This is the highest ranked show I have on my list. This show hit every bullet point for me. I was invested in the entire show, and if you were watching along with me during my watch along of this show, you heard the pop when Roman showed up. I was losing my mind over there in the back of the house in the other room. I was going crazy, so much so my dad texted me, "Dude, keep it down. I'm trying to watch TV out here." That's how loud I got when Roman showed up, because it was completely out of nowhere. It was an amazing moment. And then we get to SmackDown the following Friday, and look who's sitting next to Roman. Like, oh my God, it's a thing. It's happening. It's happening. And just a great show. A+.
And Jeff, Roman's body language when he did that run-in, I have never seen somebody since, Cena at times, Ultimate Warrior, just with that in the zone, with just no fans were there, and they might have cheered him. So maybe that worked. Maybe that worked for that situation.
I don't know why we're on Big G's shot, but okay, sure, cool. There you go. Anyway,
he's playing around, and Aaron was.
Of course he is, because exactly. So I liken that buzz. I mean, you can feel it, even the Thunderdome, fake crowd, whatever. But the buzz when Roman hit the ring was very similar, from my point of view, to when Hogan dropped the leg on Randy Savage, because that you could hear the air just get right out of that arena in Daytona. Like, it was like, oh my God, he's done this, and now Roman's here, and he's acting different. But then, like I said, 5 days later, it's like, oh, that's why. Got it. So A+ for me for the show.
Interesting. Psycho Jet Black sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. He says, "You guys think if there was never a pandemic, Roman would have never turned heel? Also, I'm glad he finally got rid of the vest and became the tribal chief." That's a great question, and I don't know if they would have turned him. I'm hoping they would have, but I think because of the pandemic, they felt if they were ever going to do it, this was the opportunity, and I'm glad for it. I'm glad we did get the heel turn from Reigns.
Yeah, Virtue made a great point. If he'd done that in the arena at SummerSlam, they would have cheered him for dropping both those guys.
Oh yeah,
and it would have been a complete fart in church if he turned heel. So perfect way to do it. So would they have done it? Like you said, Aaron, I like to think they would have, but we also give them way too much leeway on what we want as opposed to what they do. So,
all right, let's throw it over to Big G now.
I already did mine.
You did?
Yeah, you did.
I gave it a solid A.
Yeah.
Oh. So we got everybody then for SummerSlam.
You're too busy dicking with the controls to pay attention to what's going on, Aaron.
Well, we also had a spammer in here.
Well, damn the spammers.
Yeah, because he was given his when the spammer happened.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Big G, if you slide too much further down, you're going to slide right off the screen. You're going to...
Quit slouching, damn you. Sit up straight.
All right, so we're ready to move on to the next pay-per-view then. Everybody gave their thoughts. Okay, so we came back literally a week later, which is quite rare in WWE. They don't do this often, but they did for this occasion. We had Payback, and as you can see from the photo, this was the triple threat match. But Roman Reigns, as we just mentioned, the SmackDown before this pay-per-view, we saw the reveal in the locker room that he was aligned with Paul Heyman. And what a moment that was. And then on this pay-per-view, people were wondering, did Roman Reigns actually turn heel or not? Like, people were still not sure. But on this show, you knew what was happening because there was a triple threat match. And instead of Roman being out there fighting with Strowman and Wyatt, he was backstage, and he came out at the very end. He was the opportunist, took advantage of the situation, and captured the championship. So, Virtue, we're going to start with you. Your thoughts on what happened here with Roman, and do you think that this really carried the pay-per-view? What were your thoughts?
It did. So, when I looked back at this pay-per-view, I noticed that Riddle had his little pay-per-view match with Corbin and went over. Right? Let's get some new guys some wins here. Keith Lee defeated Randy Orton. Am I correct?
Correct.
Yes, correct.
Now, where is Keith Lee? And Riddle is teamed up with Orton in this weird relationship right now. It's just I like doing the retrospective and now seeing where we're at now.
Absolutely.
So those stood out at the time. And, of course, this was all designed to give the Tribal Chief the title, which is the current reign and domination that we are witnessing. So sorry, Fiend, unfortunately, it was at your expense, and Strowman was just in there to be in there. But this was all about Roman Reigns getting the Universal title back. And if you remember when he relinquished, I want to say, was it the Universal title or the WWE title?
The Universal title.
It was the Universal title when he went out for leukemia, and he never really got a crack at it back. The payback, it felt right. This was the moment for Reigns. I gave the show a B just because I wasn't too fond of the undercard, but I don't think I really give anything lower than a B coming up here with Roman involved. So that's what it is. All
right, Jeff Meacham.
I agree. Solid B from me. It was a good, solid undercard. It's just funny. First of all, the whole Orton Riddle thing, Lisa, if you're watching, that's your fault. I blame you for that. Anyway, but yeah, Riddle and Corbin, again, it's funny to look back now because Riddle and Corbin were in this big thing over on SmackDown, and now, Corbin's, trying to get, camera time as the King of the Ring. They're trying to bring the King of the Ring back or whatever. So Keith Lee is a non-factor right now. The Mysterios get their first tag team win on pay-per-view over the Rollins-Murphy combination. That was a good, solid match. Every championship changed hands that was defended. Lashley starts his ascension, back toward the top because he wins the U.S. title back. So he's back in the title picture again. And then Nia and Shayna get their first tag team title win over the ever-dissolving Bayley and Sasha, which led to so much good in the next show. Oh, my goodness. And yeah, Roman, this is Roman's night. And I agree with the comment about Roman ditching the vest. I have a friend of mine, we're not friends now, but going back, her whole thing was shirtless Roman, man. She was on NXT all the time, man, because shirtless Roman, oh my goodness. So
you just say a friend of mine, but we're not friends now. That
right, yeah, okay. A friend of mine at the time watching NXT was a huge fan of Roman without his shirt on. So I'm sure wherever she's watching now, she's giddy. So, yeah, Roman has been I didn't realize how much I liked and how much I missed Roman Reigns until he came back. Like, God darn it. I'm starting to get into more virtues category where I love everything he does. Like he has the Midas touch. Him and Paul and the Usos, man, just give me that every Friday. I'm good to go.
All right. Big G, your thoughts on this show?
Overall, I thought it was a decent pay-per-view for being 1 week after SummerSlam. Big E versus Sheamus, I thought was really well done. Very hard-hitting. Both tough guys. Like you said, the debut of Matt Riddle and Keith Lee on pay-per-view, both very good matches. I preferred the Orton and Keith Lee match a little bit more than Riddle and Corbin. Like Jeff mentioned, my girl at the time, Shayna Baszler, won the tag team titles for the first time with Nia Jax. But yeah, the main event, Roman picked his spot. Like Roman said that Friday, it's not a prediction, it's a spoiler. And every time either Roman or when Paul has said that, it has come to fruition. And like I said, Roman came out at the perfect time. Both men were beating the holy hell out of each other. Roman signs that contract, hits his music, and I think he speared both of them. I can't remember who he pinned exactly, but very good. Him and his bright white teeth. I don't know what it was about that, but that just like when he came back at SummerSlam, all I saw was those bright white teeth. And I just couldn't get out of my head. I was like, what the hell?
Freaking Ross Geller moment.
I don't remember this before. It's like, okay.
When you're on the posters of everything, they don't have to Photoshop your teeth white.
Right. So, but altogether, for being the pay-per-view after SummerSlam and some decent matches, I would give it a solid. I'm going to go with the B+.
Cool. All right. Well, I went with a solid B. I think that coming off SummerSlam, we needed a little bit of a break, but they came right back with this. However, the Roman storyline, I was fine with them going right into that. To me, that's what carried the show, hence the B. It was a perfectly fine show.
Wasn't this like a week later, Aaron?
Yeah, it was.
It was literally a week later.
Yeah. So it was good considering it came 1 week after SummerSlam. Well, we'll move on now to the next pay-per-view, which was Clash of Champions. And this is when Jey Uso got into the equation. And we all thought when this was announced, Jey Uso, they're giving him a title match. And as it turns out, it became one of the best storylines in WWE in a very long time. So, Big G, we're going to go right back to you on this one. Clash of Champions. Lots of interesting moments on this show. We had an ambulance match with Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton. What were your thoughts on this pay-per-view, Big G?
For Clash of Champions, where every title is defended, I thought it was an okay pay-per-view. Sami Zayn versus Jeff Hardy and AJ Styles in the triple threat ladder match was pretty good. Sami was very creative with the handcuffs at the end.
Yes.
And he had regained his IC title. And, he had that Fidel Castro look going on still, So Drew McIntyre versus Orton in the ambulance match was good. You had the legends come out and pretty much help Drew McIntyre. And obviously Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso for the Universal title. And like you mentioned, Aaron, has started, I think, one of the, not the best storylines during the pandemic. And it just showed how much Roman Reigns can do as a heel and as a badass. Altogether, I'll give it a B.
Okay.
All right. So I agree with the comment from DeMonte24. Like, one positive about the pandemic is that we got to see Roman Reigns trash talk, hear him trash talk. We got to see and hear him. And this is something we really don't get too much in WWE history, but because there was a pandemic, they had to start doing something different. And we got more trash talking from a lot of people. And I think Roman Reigns really hit it home good with this trash talking. He brought his A game, and he really added a lot to the psychology of these matches and the storytelling. I thought that was great. And I actually gave this pay-per-view an A-, which was the second highest up to this point after SummerSlam. Jeff, what were your thoughts on this one?
Jeff's on mute. Should I go?
You're muted.
It's my fault. My bad. Sorry. So I gave it a solid B when I watched it back. It was a good show, not a great show. I honestly thought the WWE Championship match was kind of weak, even though it got a decent, rating from different people. I mean, the ambulance match was so silly because all the legends came back and got their revenge on Orton, and then the next night they all got punked, like straight punked by Orton. So what was the freaking point? It was so beyond stupid for me. Another wonky finish for Asuka and Bayley in a title match. Okay. And then Asuka beats Zelina Vega earlier in the night, decisively. So it was so silly how they booked her all throughout this reign as champion. Just terrible. They had the 24/7 shenanigans all throughout the night with Truth and Gulak and whatever. And it was a decent show. And you had Bobby Lash versus Apollo Crews round 492, I think it was at that point. So yeah, I mean, B, middle of the road B for me. But it, and again, I know some people saying in the chat it was the greatest show of the year. I disagree with that, but it wasn't a bad show.
Yeah, I would definitely go higher for SummerSlam. But Virtue, your thoughts?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, the Zayn Intercontinental title win in the ladder match, clever, well done. I enjoyed that. I know Jeff just said he didn't like McIntyre and Orton. They, at this point, we're going to see him again at the next show. But I thought it served its purpose. McIntyre's still champion. But this was, again, to further the story of Roman and now Jey, who acknowledged him, and the fact that this was a pattern that was going to start trending. It wasn't a great pay-per-view to me, but it was definitely a B. So this is the second B in a row. Yep. And now we're seeing consistency at least. Because maybe thank the Thunderdome, thank Roman. I don't know whatever you want, but consistency is finally back with this pay-per-view.
And by the way, I'm glad somebody else called Sammy Fidel Castro besides me.
No,
Jesus.
I said that from day one when he started looking like that.
So bad. Like, oh god, terrible. And
Yeah.
Aaron and I have seen Sammy, clean cut, almost no facial hair. You watch him now, it's like, dude, Generico is long gone.
Right. Yeah, I love the thing with the handcuffs too. Sammy was great.
That was good. That was a good spot. Yeah.
All right. So now we'll move on to the next pay-per-view, which was Hell in a Cell. We had 2 cell matches, or did we have 3? I seem to forget.
3.
We had 3.
What was the third one? We had the women's one. We had Roman Reigns and
Orton and Drew.
What the hell, man? 3 cell matches? Yikes. I don't even remember the Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre one. Is that the one where Orton won the title?
Yep.
Oh, wow. I see. It's interesting going back and recapping these pay-per-views again. I totally forgot about that match. The one that I remembered the most was the Roman Reigns one, but Bayley and Sasha had a great match too. I just completely forgot about that Randy Orton one. Big G, let's throw it over to you on this. What were your thoughts on this pay-per-view and the continuing saga of Roman Reigns and Jey Uso?
So I believe, this was on my fiance's birthday, so I didn't watch the pay-per-view until later that night when I got home. I stayed off social media and whatnot, so I didn't see anything. So Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso in the Hell in a Cell match, I thought was very well done. And the injured Jimmy Uso being in there, made it even better for me. And then afterwards, we know that Jey acknowledged him as the tribal chief. Bayley and Sasha, we finally, after almost a year and a half of waiting, after like me and Virtue had called it Saved by the Bell when they were in the locker rooms and all this other stuff, we finally got them in a Hell in a Cell match, and I thought it was one of my top Hell in a Cell matches with the women.
Yep.
We finally saw Otis lose against The Miz, with the Money in the Bank ladder match, and somebody who's not with the company anymore, named Tucker.
Oh god.
Orton and McIntyre, I think this was like the 3rd or 4th match between them, and Orton won the title for a week, so good on Orton to make him a 14-time champion. So overall, I would give this. I'm going to give it another solid B. So this is like 3 solid Bs in a row for me. If it wasn't for Roman Reigns, I'm going to leave it at that.
I gave the show, I gave it an A-, and like I said, the 2 of the 3 cell matches I thought were great. Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, I loved that. I loved, the post match, that was great too. And Bayley and Sasha, they tore it up. Otis losing Money in the Bank, like that Hell in a Cell pay-per-view.
Yeah, jeez.
That Hell in a Cell pay-per-view was really solid. A-. I enjoyed the pay-per-view a lot, and that Roman Reigns stuff was just fantastic. So A- for me. And we do have a super chat here from Psycho Jet Black. He sent in $5. He says, was Sami Zayn injured around this time? Because every time he wrestled, he would just run away, avoid bumping, or have interference in his matches. That I'm not sure. I think he had just come back to WWE from being gone for a good deal of that early pandemic period.
He was working hurt, not injured.
Yeah. And, it just worked with his character, too, just being the cowardly heel, with that character, he was able to get away with that. So anyways, Jeff, we'll throw it over to you now. Your thoughts on this?
Well, it's funny you forgot the Orton-McIntyre match. If you go by the NorCal Nuisance's scores, it got the same rating as the women's match. So there you go. Great pay-per-view. I am right there with you, Aaron, on an A-. It's not the best. I still say SummerSlam was better. But Hell in a Cell really got the tribal chief stuff down the tracks, man. You had Roman, humbling both Usos, and then he walks up there, and there they are, man, the heads of the family, Alpha and Sika, to anoint him. It was just tremendous.
Yeah.
Right, yep.
I'm starting to remember. So this was the match Drew took that Shawn Michaels bump off the side of the cell, correct?
Yep.
Okay,
yes.
Yeah, now it's coming back to me.
Yeah.
Oh, well, and we do have – real quick. We do have a $2 or €2 super chat from Movie Chat and More. do you guys not think WWE is dead without Shawn Michaels? I think they're dead without Hulk Hogan, and I think if Steve Austin did not come around, they might have been in trouble. But I think they would have been fine if there was no Shawn Michaels, if that's what your question is.
Well, considering Hogan left for good in '94, that was when Brett started to ascend-ish. But, Brett and Kevin Nash, Diesel, whatever, and Shawn Michaels were the champions during that time frame before Austin really started cooking. So that's why WCW, went where they went. So those guys kept the company above water.
Yeah. It was really Hogan and Austin that brought in those big numbers and boosted the company. But, yeah, I don't think any one person without them, the company would have been dead. But, I mean, Hogan and Austin certainly helped the fortunes of the company. And it's hard to imagine WWE without Hogan or Austin. Michaels was a big part of it.
Oh, yeah. It's so funny how you say that now. We're just watching the Warrior stuff again. It's just that letter he wrote to Vince, I'm as equal as Hogan. No, Jim, you're not.
Right, exactly. Big G and Virtue are like, okay, enough of the off-topic questions.
All right.
We got another hour to go here, baby.
That's right. So, like I said, great storytelling with Roman and Jay and Jimmy and the Wild Samoans. Great stuff from them. Great stuff in the WWE Championship match. I will counter Big G's argument and say it is the best women's Hell in a Cell match so far. Sasha and Bayley.
I agree.
So good. And that's coming from a Charlotte fan, for what it's worth. So,
right.
Yeah, A minus, maybe not A plus, because
all three of them so far.
I think
Charlotte and Sasha, Becky and Sasha, Bayley and Sasha.
Yeah, well, the horsewomen, telling you, they carry the division. But yeah, only not an A plus because 3 cell matches. Oh my God, they're killing the gimmick. Anyway, move right on.
Yeah, really. Virtue, did we get
Don't jinx it. They might make it.
No, not yet.
All right, go ahead.
So we remember the Hell in a Cell the year before. Isn't that the Rollins and Fiend fiasco?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, we had 3 Hell in a Cell matches, but this whole thing, I mean, the Reigns and Jay thing with the I Quit, Jimmy coming out, magic. And I think that kicked off the show, didn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
It did.
Yes.
Then they finally, made it right and took the briefcase off Otis, even though it was The Miz, but, at least he had it before.
We got that.
The Banks and Bayley Hell in a Cell match speaks for itself. Great match. And, of course, the icing on the cake is Orton going over. I know it was a short time. This was his reward for being the best wrestler during the pandemic. I'm sorry. He still is. I mean, I know Roman came back, and I guess looking back from that point on, I would say him. But Randy Orton, the work he did during the pandemic all the way up to this point, that was him getting rewarded one more time as the man. And unfortunately for Drew, he did win it back anyway. So fortunately for Drew, he won it back. A minus. So I finally gave a WWE pandemic pay-per-view an A minus or higher. So there you go.
All right.
And Roman was a huge part of this show, so it's not hard to see why, brother.
We move on now to Survivor Series. And this pay-per-view, we had, of course, Team Raw versus Team SmackDown. Seth Rollins was written off of WWE television so he could celebrate the birth of his child. And we had the farewell of The Undertaker, which I think was the most memorable part of this pay-per-view. The Survivor Series matches I thought were really good, but I think people will remember this show for The Undertaker's final farewell. You had the hologram of Paul Bearer. Virtue, we're going to go right back to you on this. Your thoughts on this pay-per-view? I
don't like the concept of Survivor Series these days, so this is just very short and sweet. Undertaker farewell, although I felt it wasn't long enough. It was a little maybe too quick and awkward. They could have did a little more with that, but it is what it is, right, Jeff? Sasha versus Asuka, champion versus champion. It was what it was, but it was a pretty solid match. I just don't like what's at stake, and of course Roman going over McIntyre, which I expected no matter what, but I just don't like this concept of what Survivor Series has become, and it's going to take them a while to make that show. I remember all the Cleveland shows here, or in Cleveland, the early Survivor Series, and it just
Richfield, Ohio.
Yeah, so a B minus. I'm not going to get too critical. because the matches weren't bad. It's just there's nothing on the line. It just never feels special to me anymore.
Yeah. All right, Jeff, what did you think of this one? I know Undertaker was a big part of your wrestling fandom. I think for all of us, it was a big part. You know, I remember 30 years to the day, my birthday,
Your birthday,
November
brother.
22nd,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
1990, The Undertaker's debut, and then 30 years later, my birthday, November 22nd, The Undertaker retires. I loved the thing with Paul Bear, the hologram. That was so cool. Your thoughts on it?
Okay. I mean, like you said, you know, I became a fan right before he debuted, and you know, him and Jericho and RVD and our buddy Bagwell all had 30 years anniversary last year, so it was a huge year for my little circle. That was I mean, if you watched the watch along, I lost my shit. I did. It was a complete mess when Percy showed up. I miss Percy to this day. I adore that man, and I was so grateful to have him get to know myself and my son, and have him treat my son with such care and dignity and class for a little boy that he was back then. It was so great to get to know him the last year of his life. But Undertaker, I mean, I remember when I walked away from this with you guys 3.5 years ago, when Undertaker walked away at what we thought was going to be the last time after WrestleMania 33. So everything was in my head during that moment. I was just like, okay, I've got my own channel now. I'm doing my own thing. It's just crazy what a difference a few years makes. The matches themselves, Virtue, you're a sports fan. Big G, you're a sports fan. This is supposed to be like the All-Star game, right? And at one point, the All-Star game in baseball used to mean World Series home field advantage. You know, if your team wins Survivor Series, let's have, you know, one guy and one gal from each winning side be number 30 in the Rumble matches. Some sort of stakes. Virtue's right. This pay-per-view feels so flat now. It's like, we got to have Raw versus SmackDown. Why? And the year before we had NXT involved, and freaking NXT whooped that ass. Okay, exactly, man. We don't want a part of them this year. They're scary, so we kept them off there. And the matches weren't bad. The show just was, meh. You know, there was no way Drew was going to beat Roman Reigns in the role he's on right now. Still really to this day, it's great. I mean, you know, God, they went almost a half hour, but you had no doubt in your mind who was going to win that match. And that's the thing. You know, you had no doubt who was going to win that one. You had no doubt there was going to be the gobbledygook shenanigans with the 24/7 title, because it's Survivor Series 30th anniversary. You knew it was coming. But other than that, it just, like, I don't even remember. I had to. That's right. I forgot that match happened. So, I mean, yeah, B- is pretty fair for me. So, and if it not for the Undertaker's moment, it dives into C level for me. It really does.
Oh, wow. Mike D gave it a $2 super chat. Thank you, Mike D. He says Taker will get his proper farewell at Hall of Fame next year. I
wish just push it back one more year. I mean, it's going to be here. Hollywood. Damn it! It's like, God, come on, man. Give me I mean, we're going to get the Rock moment, and that's not bad either. But, you know,
maybe. All right. Well, Big G, what do you think about Survivor Series?
You know, it reminds me of a pay-per-view called Bragging Rights. At this point, I remember when Survivor Series actually had teams. You know, I can go back. You know, you had Team DX versus Team Rated RKO. Even earlier in the early 1980s, when Survivor Series, you had two different teams consisting of different people. And obviously, back then we didn't have Raw and SmackDown, but like Jeff said and Virtue said, have something, you know, on the stake. Have somebody be the number 30 in the Royal Rumble. Give somebody a title shot. Do something. Make it meaningful. Drew and Roman, I enjoyed a lot. You know, WWE was like, well, Drew, you had your moment, but our top guy is back and he's going to beat you. So all together, and obviously the Undertaker. I was there with Jeff on the stream, and you know, just seeing Jeff as a big fan of the Undertaker kind of hit me too, because it's just weird.
The
But
screencasts my buddy Kat got were just priceless. I had him on the talkers the next day. I was like, Jesus, I didn't even know how done I was.
yeah, but yeah, Undertaker's moment, his farewell speech was very well done. The hologram of Percy was very well done. So I'm gonna give this a pay-per-view a solid A.
Wow.
Interesting. I gave it a B plus. I thought it was pretty good. Undertaker helped build it up a little bit.
It was kind of weird though that like the people showed up for the Undertaker and then like they went to a commercial.
That's what I said. It was just something was weird about it.
Yeah, it was definitely, like I said, wherever he goes to the Hall of Fame, that'll be the big proper farewell, for sure.
That'll be the big shebang.
I thought it was an entertaining show. I thought the Survivor Series matches were good. Roman versus Drew McIntyre was really good. And then, of course, Undertaker. Again, would have been one of those shows where if he had the fans, I think it would have been elevated a little bit. But anyways, Let's move on here to the final pay-per-view of 2020, a year that was quite interesting for all of us. We ended TLC with the TLC match, of course, Roman Reigns versus KO, Kevin Owens. Let's start with Jeff Meacham on this one. Jeff, your thoughts on this final pay-per-view of 2020? Actually, we did not close with that. We closed with the death of the Fiend. We had the Fiend versus Randy Orton in an Inferno match, and the Fiend
Firefly Inferno match.
Yes, and WWE took advantage of the situation. Being at the Thunderdome, they could edit it, they could do the special effects, so they went all out. The Fiend actually got burned to a crisp to end this pay-per-view. Your thoughts on TLC?
Okay, I am still judgment reserved for this, and I'll tell you why. We don't know what the end game is yet, because Alexa stepped into the feud, carried it masterfully right to WrestleMania, and then we had that big swerve with her turning on Bray, and then Bray's been gone from TV since. Like, we don't know what the end game is going to be. I have a feeling we're going to find it on Sunday, but we'll see. So if we're going to condemn the pay-per-view based on that match, then I don't know what I'll say. But the other matches, the TLC match with Roman and Kevin was very good. And everybody knows I'm not a big Kevin Owens fan as a person, but Kevin Owens in WWE has completely impressed me, and 180 to my opinion on him in the ring as a performer. Unbelievable. Asuka and Charlotte Flair, that weird pairing that didn't make any damn sense from day one, and they became champions that night. It was weird for me. I'd say a solid B, like in the middle of the road B would be for me.
Interesting, Jeff. See, I loved this pay-per-view. I gave it an A. I gave this pay-per-view an A. I loved the ending with the Fiend being set on fire. I thought that was super cool. Just something to talk about. These pay-per-views end up flat a lot of the time, and they actually did something really interesting to end the pay-per-view. Roman Reigns, Kevin Owens was a great TLC match. I really enjoyed the Drew McIntyre, AJ Styles one as well. And the undercard was really solid on this pay-per-view, in my opinion. Sasha Banks and Carmella had a hell of a match, even though I never thought Carmella had a chance of winning. They really tore it up and had a surprisingly
not at all. Like so first of all, McIntyre versus AJ versus The Miz, that was a match, right?
Yes.
So were they trying to make The Miz, because he held the Money in the Bank at this point now, like a main eventer again? Because that was just so weird that he gets to be in this match now all of a sudden because he has the Money in the Bank briefcase. So to me, it was just December filler, it felt like, other than the special effects with Orton and The Fiend. I mean, come on. We've seen Kane and Undertaker Inferno matches. And just the way everything's happened with Bray Wyatt, I just get so pissed when I look back at things like this. And, of course, Reigns and Owens, TLC, right? I like it. But I just felt like this was December filler, C+.
Interesting. Well, we're having some different opinions on this one.
But nowhere near the lowest grades I've given, like the earlier pay-per-views, but nothing. It just didn't feel for me.
Fair enough. DeMonte24 with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, love the website since 09 and the Talk Wrestling and No DQ&A video days. Sasha is the GOAT women's wrestler in WWE, not Charlotte like WWE wants us to think. You're on mute, Jeff, but that's okay. Let's throw it over to Big G.
He's right, for the record. Yeah.
So, it was good for what it was. The Hurt Business, they were on the roll, you know. I believe Lashley was still U.S. champ at the time. Hurt Business, Shelton and Cedric won the tag titles from the New Day. Randy Orton and The Fiend, it continued the storyline until, what we led until WrestleMania. Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens was good in a TLC match. This just continued the storyline with Roman Reigns pretty much dominating, making his head of the table, acknowledge him thing. And the triple threat match between Drew, AJ, and The Miz, I thought was decent. So altogether, I would give it a B+.
All right, there you go from Big G. And now we'll move on to 2021, when the world was starting to feel like maybe there's a light at the end of the tunnel in this crazy era of the pandemic. We kicked off in a big way with the Royal Rumble pay-per-view, and I gave this show an A, just like I did for the TLC pay-per-view. And I had in my notes, like, again, if there was a crowd, an actual live crowd there in the building, this would have been a top-tier Royal Rumble.
Aaron giving A's out. You're giving A's out like Oprah's giving out cars on her show.
I know. And
you getting A, you getting A, everybody getting A.
I looked back at my letter grades for these pandemic pay-per-views, and I was surprised. And again, going back to earlier, people were saying I'm so negative about WWE. I've been praising these pay-per-views. Like I felt like they've been really good overall. They've been good to great. I never gave any an A+ though. There are no A+, but I think SummerSlam and the Royal Rumble, if we had fans, those potentially could have been A+ pay-per-views. But anyways, I thought that this show was really solid. Bianca Belair winning the Royal Rumble, great Royal Rumble, and the men's Royal Rumble with the victory from Edge, another great Royal Rumble. Just very entertaining stuff. We had a lot of surprises. We had Carlito showing up. Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens in the last man standing match. Unfortunately, the ending did not go exactly as planned.
That's Paul Heyman's fault.
Oh, yeah.
But beyond that, that was an excellent match, too. Just a really fun show to watch. So, Virtue, will throw it over to you. Your thoughts on this one?
I love the fact that Billy Boy came back and got jobbed out again. I mean, I'm going to point that out every single time.
Oh, yeah.
And Reigns and Owens, obviously, great match. The fumble at the end, I'm surprised they didn't have breakaway handcuffs. But anyway, that's neither here nor there, and they can edit that out on Peacock to make it look better. Belair winning the Royal Rumble. What sucks about these, and Edge winning the Royal Rumble, is just the fan. Like, they had the Trons there, the digital boards, and the fake piped in, but this really could have used the crowd in attendance for the Royal Rumble. But it was solid. I rarely rate Royal Rumbles very low, so I gave it a solid B. I mean, there wasn't anything. I was kind of pulling for Daniel Bryan. Like, I really wish he did make the main event in a convoluted way for WrestleMania, but I get why they had Edge win if that truly was what was supposed to happen. But a B, solid B.
All right, real quick here, a $5 super chat from Movie Chat and More. Thank you for that. Says, I need to ask you guys this. Montreal, a work or a real screw job?
Go watch the Bret Hart documentary.
Right. Can we table that to the end? And I'm going to bring up China at the end of the show, too. Can we put it to the end and keep going with the show?
Yeah. But
thank you.
I will say what Big G just said. Check out Wrestling with
Shadows. Yep. It's right there.
I think it was a work, or it was a shoot to everybody. Or it was a work to everybody but Bret Hart. That's what I think.
Damn. There you go. Short and sweet.
I didn't know how to word that. But.
Right.
All right, so Big G, let's go over to you now. Your thoughts on the Rumble.
I enjoyed it a lot. Drew McIntyre defeating Goldberg in less than 3 minutes was awesome.
Yes.
You know, Bianca winning the Royal Rumble I thought was right, and Edge winning the Men's Royal Rumble, you know, start to finish was awesome. You know, him coming back after his match with Orton at the greatest wrestling match ever. Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens in the last man standing match was good up until, like we've all mentioned, till the end. So yeah, altogether, I would give it a solid A.
Solid A. Nice. Jeff Meacham, you going to agree with Big G?
I will when the dog stops barking, yes. But yeah, solid A for me for sure. Only not an A plus because Rosenberg became a champion. It's like, oh no.
Yeah. God, I forgot about that. Thanks for bringing that up.
You're welcome. I apologize for the nightmares tonight, Lord. I apologize for that. There, the fact that the last man standing match got botched at the end, and the NorCal Nuisance still gave it 4 stars astounds me. It really does. Bianca winning, right way to go. Edge winning, right way to go. Sasha and like you said, Carmella had a great match. It's like, wow, cool. Because you know when she came back with that terrible gimmick she's been saddled with, there was no hope for me for my fandom. And yes, Goldberg losing in 2 minutes is always my favorite time of the year. So just great stuff there. Yeah, solid A.
All right. On that note, we will move on to the next pay-per-view, which was the
Elimination Chamber.
The Elimination Chamber. And as you can see from the photo, there was a memorable moment on this pay-per-view when The Miz cashed in Money in the Bank to once again become WWE champion. And this was basically just a setup to get the WWE title on Bobby Lashley. Lashley lost the United States Championship in a triple threat match where he did not take the fall. But let's talk about this. We had the 2 chamber matches. Big G, I'm going to throw it over to you first. Your thoughts on Money in the Bank.
Elimination Chamber I thought was okay. You know, Daniel Bryan won the first match of the night from start to finish, and then literally had a match with Roman Reigns afterwards. And like I said before, this was just Roman Reigns continuing his dominating ways as Universal Champion, head of the table, whatever you want to call him. Matt Riddle winning the U.S. title was pretty good, you know, for his first singles title. And then the last match, you know, was pretty decent. Drew McIntyre retained. And then we had Lashley come out, pretty much beat him to a pulp. And we had what we just showed a couple seconds ago, The Miz cashing in the Money in the Bank and becoming a 2-time WWE champion. And I want to believe a 2-time Grand Slam champion as well.
Sure.
So overall, I'm going to be generous. I'll give it a solid B.
No. I actually gave it a solid B as well. I think The Miz cashing in was a highlight of the show.
Right.
Virtue, what did you think of it?
All right, so I liked how Bryan went the distance, or I don't know if he went the distance, but he won the Elimination Chamber match to get the shot at Roman.
Right.
That was an Elimination Chamber match, correct?
Yes.
Yes. And then Roman proceeds to come right out and take care of business. So I just like the dominance. I know they kind of teased Bryan for a few seconds there. Interestingly, this is where Keith Lee was removed, right?
Yes.
Wasn't he removed from the match? And
Yeah.
Riddle got his U.S. title run. Obviously, we know why now because Lashley was getting pushed to the main event. But it was nice to see Riddle carry a title into Mania. I know he lost it, but so that was very interesting. And, of course, McIntyre winning the Chamber. And then we were like, how are they going to really have The Miz cash in? Like, because you're such a jobber and a mid-carder these days. But they did it. And that's how everybody was taught what they were talking about when the show went off the air. And that is usually good stuff because we had to see how it was going to play out. So I gave the Elimination Chamber, and I love that structure, by the way, a B+.
All right, Jeff Meacham.
I've always enjoyed the Chamber, even though they've redesigned it a couple of times. It's still a cool concept. Even Hunter said it when they first created it. It was a combination of War Games and Hell in a Cell and Survivor Series, kind of elimination style. So I've liked the concept from the beginning. I liked that, Roman, did his thing right after the chamber match. It was so good. And in 93 seconds, Brian's done. Thanks for playing. Good night. Great stuff from Roman there. Riddle winning, not a fan of, but whatever. Why? I'm not a fan of the Riddle character. I never have been, and I'm not a fan of Riddle the person. I've had encountered a couple times.
WWE, push him more. Push him more, WWE. If anybody from WWE watches this, Vince McMahon, he's your new sexy boy toy. Make this thing with Randy Orton gold.
Yeah.
And instead of doing the obvious and having Randy turn on Riddle, have Riddle turn on Randy, drop the stoner gimmick and say, dude, I'm a legit fighter and I'll kick anybody's ass, and push him straight to the top. Thank you. You're welcome.
Jeff, why do you have to be such a buzzkill, bro?
He doesn't like Enzo either. We know I love Enzo, so it happens.
Enzo,
but we both hate Goldberg, so
Enzo was a completely irrational hate. I never even met the guy. I've met Riddle, not my cup of tea at all. And trust me, they already know I don't like Matt as it is, so that's okay. Anyway, but the chamber for the WWE Championship and the fallout with Lashley and Miz was so well laid out, so well executed. Not a fan of Miz immediately dropping the title. That kind of sucked, but I'm a misfit, so what can I? But like I said, Lashley has been solid ever since, so I'm okay with it. B, solid B.
All right, and Big G.
I already did mine.
Oh, I keep skipping over.
I think we know Aaron likes Riddle. not paying attention there, buddy.
Aaron, are you smoking a little bit of the ganja?
Well, no,
there?
there's actually some breaking news here. Well, I'll get to that in a second. Mr. Anderson sent in a $2 super chat. Says Elimination Chamber was great because of Roman Reigns.
Oh, I don't know about that. I think Miz and McIntyre when it had their time. I don't know about that.
What's the breaking news?
What's the breaking news?
Apparently, they're doing the Roman Reigns Rey Mysterio Hell in a Cell match on SmackDown instead of the pay-per-view.
What?
Yeah, courtesy of Michael
I don't believe
Wayne.
you.
Are they trying to get over 2 million again on ratings? That's probably what it is.
That's probably exactly what it is. I'll bet you. Wow.
All right. Anyways,
Wow.
so everybody gave their letter grade for this one.
Yes.
All right. So on that note,
it is.
we'll move on to Fastlane.
That's crazy.
The return of the Fiend after being burned to a crisp. He showed up with his face all melted, his mask all melted, and this was a solid pay-per-view, I thought. This was a filler show before WrestleMania, but I felt like we had some good matches on this show. Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan with Edge as the special guest referee. They set up the WrestleMania triple threat. A lot of this was just set up for WrestleMania, but I thought the execution was good for the most part. So, Jeff, let's start with you on this one. Your thoughts?
So, you being my direct conduit to Freddy Krueger, wouldn't it have been a much better thing between here and Mania to have the Fiend invade Randy's dreams, being all burnt to a crisp like Freddy Krueger was? Wouldn't that just made the most sense in the Thunderdome? That would have been a tremendous road to WrestleMania for my money.
Well, they did have Randy Orton spitting out that black goo.
Okay, well, yeah, but that's Papa Shango, not Freddy Krueger, and Papa Shango became a pimp, so we all know how well that went. He's a Hall of Famer, though, so you got to give him credit, even if he is a freaking kayfabe and jerk. Anyway, Roman, Bryan, you know Roman and Bryan are going to be good. They're two of the best, if not the two best in the company, pound for pound. Solid match there to end the show. Edge, of course, being involved to set up the triple threat, which, we all know me and the triple threat's not a fan, but I enjoyed the one at WrestleMania, so take that for what it's worth. Having Alexa face Randy in the match, it's like, come on. Like, I'm surprised that we even went 5 minutes. Like, the fact that it went as long as it did was very surprising to me. Rollins and Nakamura, another great, adding with two guys that, really made their name outside WWE before they came to WWE. So that was cool from them. The continued devolving of Strowman's push. He faced Elias. Like, why? Who the hell is Elias doing on this pay-per-view? What the hell?
We should have known.
We should have known then and back at Fastlane. And then you had Nia and Shayna defeat Bianca and Sasha. I I will never understand this wrestling thing where they have to have the people feuding over a world championship in a tag team. It's the stupidest damn thing. I hate it. I hate it so much.
Can they coexist?
No, they can't. That's why they're fighting at the championship at Mania, you idiots. So yeah.
Not once, but twice they did this with Bianca and Sasha.
Right? Like what?
Are you surprised they never put the tag belts on Hogan and Savage?
Yes, I legitimately am. But you know what? Yeah, remember Virtue at the time, they were really on top. You know, they had the Hearts, they had the Bulldogs, they had Strike Force, they had Demolition. They had a lot of great tag teams. Can you imagine the Backlash, if they had Hogan and Savage be tag team champions and Randy be the world champion? Oh my God, people would have crapped the boys would have crapped on it for sure. So, this show, I mean, it was a good show, but I'll give it a B-, and I think I'm being generous there.
All right, Big G. I think you did not go this time.
No, I did not. So Fastlane, you know, from what I got out of it, Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan. Was it as good as their match, as their Fastlane match a couple years before? I thought their Fastlane match back in, I want to say, was it 2015? Was a lot better. Thank you, Jeff. Edge being involved, obviously, we know where that led to at WrestleMania. Drew McIntyre coming out in freaking Braveheart with his face painted, and I'm just so happy he didn't like throw a speech before the match happened. But Drew versus Sheamus was all right. We had Big E versus Apollo for like the millionth time already. And like you said, Jeff, the downfall of Braun Strowman. Who would have thunk it?
Right.
The best thing of the night was the Fiend coming back. You know, I think me and Virtue have said this plenty of times, and so have you, Jeff and Aaron. The Fiend needs to be in a freaking movie by now. Just make a movie about the Fiend. You know, go back to like the 80s horror movies and make it something like that. So overall, with the Fiend coming back, I'll give it a solid B.
Yeah.
It's funny G mentioned the movie. Aaron and I talked about that when they released the novel about Kane's life. Dude, that was a great script right there in their hands, man. Like, right? Do that. Yeah. You know, but they didn't. So
I gave it a solid B as well. I think it was pretty solid for essentially a filler pay-per-view. Virtue, what did you think?
I gave it a B-. Reigns and Bryan versus Bryan, I loved it, obviously. Drew versus Sheamus wasn't bad. The whole Braveheart look kind of like took me out of it early on because it's like, come on. Did Vince McMahon just recently watch Braveheart? And then, of course, you know, the Fiend came back. But what I remember most of that match was Bliss mounting Randy Orton. And that's an image that I will not get out of my head. But I give the show B-.
Getting on Alexa on Twitter the next day.
Yep, right. B-. Not much more to say.
All right, fair enough. Now we move on to night one of WrestleMania 37, and this is the first event with a paying crowd since the start of the pandemic. Now, it was at Raymond James Stadium. However, a lot of people still were not vaccinated, and WWE had to follow the protocols, and they did the limited capacity. They did about 1/3, 1/4 capacity. They used cardboard cutouts to fill the empty seats, and they had the social distancing, and they had a few issues with Mother Nature. It was pouring rain, but I felt like the crowd reactions were a bit disappointing for both nights, and maybe that had something to do with the rain, maybe because people were socially distanced. But yeah, it was a little disappointing. However, I feel like there was a different atmosphere, and it was emotional for everybody to see the fans there again. And it kind of felt like we're finally starting to move back towards some normalcy with WrestleMania and with WWE. And they got to make up for some of the moments that were lacking at the previous WrestleMania with the big fan celebrations and everything. So we got the feel-good moments on this show. The main event, of course, Bianca Belair, night one, capturing the SmackDown Women's Championship. We had Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre, and we had Lashley shocking the world maybe by beating McIntyre. No, who's burping?
do you think?
Very
I'm
professional.
totally thrown off now. So, Big G, since you decided to chime in,
You
Rude.
must be eating some brownies or something.
you could take over here. And Jeff, where's your dinner? It's
I already got asked. I told her to wait.
poor Jeff. He's got.
I'm getting hangry, G. Let's go.
All right. So, first night of WrestleMania 37, the crowd is back. 3 matches stand out to me. Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre. That was very well done. I thought the right person won. You know, everybody thought that McIntyre might win in front of a crowd, but they wanted to keep the title on Lashley to continue his dominating reign. The second match was Cesaro versus Seth Rollins. Cesaro's first single match at a WrestleMania. I thought was very well done. I joined that. And actually, there's 4 matches. Bad Bunny and Damian Priest versus The Miz and John Morrison. Bad Bunny put in a lot of work, and The Miz helped Bad Bunny through the match, and especially with the Canadian Destroyer. And then the last match, Bianca versus Sasha, that was one of the greatest women's matches that I have seen in a long time. So night 1, I would give a solid A. I thoroughly enjoyed night 1.
All right. Sticky B sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, somebody hit me over the head so I can see some stars.
You're looking at stars right now, brother.
Thanks for the $5 nonsensical comment. Cool. All right. Move right along.
I think he was talking about just the lack of star power in WWE, maybe. I'm not sure.
Aaron, when you look at this card, I mean, the women's tag team division is completely decimated here because Billie Kay, not with the company anymore, and Carmella defeat Lana, not with the company anymore, and Naomi, who's floundering right now. And then you got Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott, not with the company anymore, defeat Billie. And then, Natty and Tamina beat them after Liv and Ruby beat Dana and Mandy, who are actually the only team in this whole thing besides the champs that are still together. Complete mess. But a decent little tag team to kind of showcase the women division. So, okay. Cesaro Rollins was way good. And Aaron, you and I have seen them go so many times in Indies. It was like, it could not be good, right? AJ and Almost winning the tag titles. I'm waiting for that to dissolve and just disintegrate completely already. Like, oh my God. Strowman and Shane, again, Strowman, has Elias the month before, and now he hits Shane McMahon in the cage at WrestleMania. It's like, how did we not see this firing coming? Like, Jesus. Bad Bunny impressed me.
He beat Shane. He beat Shane.
Right, but I say he beat Elias, he beat Shane, but he's getting these matches that are completely, it's like the whole thing was just digging that grave deeper and deeper for him, man. You might as well put him in the Boneyard match and make it better. Jesus. Bad Bunny impressed me. I was on this channel and my channel ragging that whole thing, the whole 2 months going in from WrestleMania, and I said on camera I was wrong. Bad Bunny did exactly what he was supposed to do. He trained well. He performed well. He got the rub onto Damian Priest for a while before he got hurt, of course. And Bianca and Sasha, I mean, I've said it over the last few months. Sasha's been the most consistent performer on the female side of the roster since she came back from her little timeout she took after WrestleMania a couple years ago. She has impressed me every step of the way, and Bianca has been a solid champion ever since. And by the way, Aaron, I think the new NoDQ shirt for tonight is #solid. The new shirt on the Teespring store.
All right, fair enough. What was your letter grade?
A. Solid A.
I gave it an A-, and there were a lot of fun moments on this show.
Yeah.
Cesaro and Seth Rollins was really fun. AJ Styles and Omos winning the tag team titles. Shane taking the bump off the top of the cage. It's just funny that Strowman gets released right after that.
Yep.
But, whatever. Bad Bunny put on a great performance. Virtue, what did you think of this pay-per-view?
I was kind of shocked they didn't have McIntyre win the title there because they could have had Lashley win it back. But I noticed it was via submission, too. Wasn't McIntyre distracted by MVP?
Yes, he was.
Cesaro versus Rollins was good. That's one of those matches you wish they had like 5 more minutes, but, whatever. Shane took his bump, right? That's pretty much all I remember from the cage match. And then Belair and Banks and the smack of the whip of the hair and the braids in the hair.
Yep.
Classic moment. And, both girls were crying because they knew they awed the world. One thing I will disagree with no matter how good he looked, Bad Bunny in a spot like that is the drizzling shits. It ruins the credibility of the wrestling business. Because of that, I knock it down to a B+. Bad Bunny was horrible. Not that he did bad, just the concept of Bad Bunny working wrestlers, skinny little rapper, that just kills the wrestling business.
Well, it's John Morrison.
Virtue, my fiance agrees with you. She's sitting.
Thank you. And I know others like Jim Cornette agree with me too, and many others. So whatever. And he's gone, right? And he's gone because he got his little gloat, a little time in the spotlight. Now he's gone, making his crappy beats.
The match is exactly what he was supposed to do. It was supposed to give the rub to Priest and still give Bunny
what rub?
promotion.
Where's Priest? What's Priest doing?
Priest got hurt. That's why he's off TV. That's why. But Bad Bunny got his, promotion for his album. The next night at WrestleMania, they even plugged the commercial for the album. So yeah, the tour. So everything about that match came off exactly how it was supposed to come off.
And the credibility of the business took another downward spiral into the shitter.
Okay, so now we're going back to 85 and talk about Mr. T being there, and that was bad credibility. Okay, we'll just go ahead.
Mr. T's a bad.
Make a 3-hour show. Make a 3-hour show. Here we go.
Mr. T, Bad Bunny. Mr. T, the way he looks, Bad Bunny. Big difference. Big difference. Might as well bring Swoggle.
Kevin Federline pinned the WWE champion on national television. That's all I got to say about Bad Bunny.
You might as well bring Hornswoggle back at that point and have him in that match doing the Canadian Destroyer.
There you go.
You don't want Enzo in WWE, but you're okay with Bad Bunny in there.
I didn't say I was okay with him being there. I didn't say
Enzo is a trained. Whatever.
I didn't say I was okay to be there. I said he surprised me and impressed me with how well he did. I didn't say I was okay with him being there. I'm still not okay with him being there.
Ding, round one.
He surprised me nothing. If anything, Miz and Morrison went way above and beyond what they needed to do to make that chump look like he knew what he was doing. It was all them, 100%. There was no two to tango with that loser in the ring. It was all the veterans in there covering his ass. You don't believe me? Go listen to the Cult of Cornette.
Yeah, that'll be how I spend my time tonight.
In the business. You should, because he knows what he's talking about when it
Sorry,
comes to that
Virtue.
stuff.
He's not Eric Bischoff. Jeff ain't going to listen to him.
I don't even listen to Bischoff stuff anymore. He bugs me too.
But anyway, next.
All right, then. Night 2 of WrestleMania.
Stack them up!
Look at that.
Beautiful
There's an image.
picture here. Absolutely.
Oh my goodness.
Smash them, stack them. Roman Reigns pinning Edge and Daniel Bryan in the same night. Now, I did not like Night 2 as much as Night 1, although this visual right here was arguably the highlight of WrestleMania. This was perfect to further establish Roman Reigns as the guy in WWE.
He's the dominant male.
Yes, people were thinking maybe Edge would have the feel-good win or Bryan would have the feel-good win, but they went with the best for business decision to put over the current guy who's carrying the company. So that, to me, was a highlight of this WrestleMania. Jeff, what were your thoughts on this WrestleMania?
The main event was good. Very good, I'll even say. The Orton Wyatt thing is still, the jury's out on that because we don't know where we're going to go here Sunday with Alexa. So I still reserve judgment on that because if there's a solid ending to all this, then it all makes sense and was worth it, maybe. Apollo's transformation, I guess, for lack of a better term, and the Nigerian drum match with Big E. Seriously, how many has Big E and Apollo worked more than Orton and Cena at this point? I mean, really, seriously,
it's up there.
It's got to be up there. Sheamus beating Riddle all day, every day. I'll take that. Hell yes. Nia and Shayna retaining against Natty and Tamina here, and then losing it on TV later. It was just like, okay, fine. And Rhea defeating Asuka was a year too late. I think Rhea should have been made at WrestleMania last year by beating Charlotte, and it didn't happen. I think Rhea's whole thing right now is very flat for me. Like I'm not into it at all. So the night 2 definitely fell short of night 1. So I'll say B+.
Well, see, I went with a B because I think that first match was pretty awful. After all that build up with the Fiend to do that, and what we've seen the last several weeks, I feel like Alexa's character has gone way down here. But you're right; they might salvage it.
Well, seriously, the entire moment of that match was her entrance, because she was in Florida. She was a Disney character, man. She was all smiles. She was waving to the people, waving to the kids. She was in her full Lexi Disney mode for about 2 minutes there. It was adorable. Everything down after that, down the ship.
Right. I mean, yeah, I thought that the show overall was good. I gave night 1 an A- and night 2 a B. Big G, what did you think of night 2 of WrestleMania?
It was all right for what it was. The first match, like we've mentioned, I think can be put up there with the WrestleMania 32 match. Like, seriously, Orton hit an RKO and that was it. I was like, what the heck just happened? You know, and Alexa turned on the Fiend and whatnot. Give me Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn all day, every day. I could see them fight forever, literally. I mean, I know you guys seen them back in PWG when they did their thing.
Yeah.
Apollo and Big E, you know, this was like the 5th or 6th match we had seen them, and it was a stipulation match. Rhea Ripley, I'm not feeling Rhea right now. I dug her in NXT UK and NXT, but it's just for some reason I'm just not feeling it on the main roster. Obviously, the main event was tremendous. I like the ending where like Aaron just showed earlier, Roman Reigns stacked them and pinned them literally. If he does that again in another match, in a triple threat match, that would just continuate his dominance and further himself as the head of the table tribal chief. Nia and Shayna retaining against Tamina and Natalya, you know, and then they won the tag team titles a couple of weeks later on TV. Really, I mean, people were cheering for Tamina on both nights. Who would have thunk? You know? So I would give WrestleMania night 2 a B plus.
A B. Yeah, I feel like the crowd heat was definitely worse the second night, and I feel like that first match just took
and then
the
Bailey
on.
I felt bad for Bailey.
Oh
God.
God! Oh,
with the Bella twins. Oh yeah, people were expecting.
And the NWO, like everybody buried her. It was terrible.
Yeah.
I love that comment you put up about Bray getting support after the show. It seems like there's this cycle. Like he'll get super hot and everybody, oh yeah, and oh he got buried again. Oh yeah, it's like a vicious roller coaster of hell. I feel so bad for.
And I did not dig Titus O'Neil and Hulk Hogan as the hosts.
Well, that was doomed from Jump Street.
Yeah, Hogan getting booed
in Tampa. Let's not undersell that. Jesus.
All right, so Virtue. Bad. Your thoughts?
Orton and Fiend. Owens and Zayn delivered. I love the fact that one of those, who's that YouTuber, Logan Paul, whoever the hell. I'm glad that he got stunned by Owens. I liked Sheamus and Riddle. You know, it was good to see Sheamus win a title on the big stage again. I don't think Riddle was ever supposed to have that title, because if Keith Lee was originally supposed to have it, who knows? Ripley versus Asuka was okay. I expected it to be a little bit better, actually, but maybe it was the fact that the whole night the crowd was deflated from what happened with Orton and Fiend early on. And, of course, the main event salvaged the night, Reigns, Bryan, and Edge. I thought Jay was a little bit he should have never came back out in the match.
I agree.
I would have liked to see Roman win that by himself kind of and stack them. But, hey, that shirt, that's an iconic image now. I give night 2 a B. And then someone earlier in the chat, a couple people said I probably popped when David Arquette won the WCW title in 2000. That's actually one of my criticisms of Vince Russo. Yes, I have a criticism of Vince Russo, and that was one of them. So if you pay more attention, other than just put a blanket statement out there, because I like Vince Russo. Next.
It's very funny you say that, because he actually didn't make our worst champions list on Dad's coming up in September.
Jeff, your thoughts on this super chat from Mr. Anderson, who sent in $2. Roman versus Shield Roman is when it's best for business.
If you want to book a WWE 2K21, brother, go, or 2K, what the hell number on now? Go for it, Mr. Anderson, by all means.
Last time we saw something like that was Undertaker versus Undertaker, and well.
No, you can't forget Kane versus Kane, Aaron. I mean, wait a minute now.
Another classic.
You know, we're over the 2-hour mark here in a couple minutes.
Hell yeah. Luke Gallows had a huge moment playing the bogus Kane. So good for Luke, man.
All right. Big G no longer happy to be here because we're at the 2-hour mark.
Well, to be fair, for you guys, it's 10 o'clock, so it's getting late for y'all. So
All right.
I'm good.
So we'll go through this quickly since it's fresh in our memories. WrestleMania Backlash, Cesaro getting his opportunity. Big G,
Yeah,
we'll
right.
start with you on this one. Your thoughts on this pay-per-view?
I mean, Ray and Dominic Mysterio winning the tag titles, the first father-son tag team champions. That was a cool moment. Bobby Lashley versus Strowman and McIntyre was pretty good. Roman Reigns versus Cesaro was pretty good. And then that lumberjack match. Man, I'll give it a C.
Really?
I'll give it a C.
Nice.
That shocked me because
That's bold, brother.
I thought that this was a great show, other than the whole lumberjack fiasco, and at least that was entertaining. It was a train wreck, but it was something else to watch. Like, I thought this was a hell of a show. I actually gave it an A. Jeff, what did you think?
Aaron, that match, the lumberjack match, was a train wreck if you're on the train. That's how bad that match was. Oh my god. But the rest of the show was great. I agree with you. Hey, I do. Good match.
All right.
Good show.
Virtue.
So yeah, we got Reigns and Cesaro. Great match. I just was not feeling the rest of the show. I mean, they had the triple threat with the women, and Ripley retained, but I gave it a C plus. And I don't know, maybe the WrestleMania Backlash, maybe they overdid it by putting WrestleMania in there because it's the Peacock deal and all that. So maybe I was a little jaded by the name of the event, but nothing. And I felt like Cesaro is like the one and done now, and he's back feuding with Rollins. Like, I thought this Cesaro getting his opportunity would have been a bigger deal. Now, I know with Reigns as a champion, right, you can't expect too much, but maybe that's another reason why I felt deflated. Like, Cesaro got his title opportunity, and now he's swept under the rug again. So, but we'll see what happens. But, yeah, just a C+. That's why I was a 5 out of 10 going into Hell in a Cell this weekend. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I figured Cesaro was going to be a one and done, but I liked how that match played out, and I liked that Roman got a clean win. Like, to me, that was a really important thing for him to get a clean win there. And Cesaro had a great outing.
Especially against Cesaro, who's, we've said for years, pound for pound, the best guy in the company.
Yeah.
All
right.
Yeah, I was looking at all my grades for 2001, and I hadn't had any C's yet, so maybe that's another reason why I gave Backlash a C+.
Aaron, question about WrestleMania. Were we there for the blow-off with Steen and Generico in the Guerrilla Warfare match, BWG? Were we there for that one?
I have no idea.
I
don't
remember that.
I don't give a shit right now. I'm going to bed.
All right. So, rankings of the pay-per-view. So I'll go ahead and start here with my rankings. Bottom was Extreme Rules, the horror show.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Money in the Bank.
Yep.
WrestleMania 36 Night 2.
Ooh, wow.
Backlash. Elimination Chamber. Fastlane. Payback. WrestleMania 37 Night 2. Survivor Series, WrestleMania 36 Night 1, and then WrestleMania 37 Night 1, Clash of Champions, Hell in a Cell, TLC, WrestleMania Backlash, which is number 3. Number 2 is SummerSlam, and then number 1, the 2021 Royal Rumble. In my opinion, the best pay-per-view of the pandemic era.
Where did you have Hell in a Cell, Aaron?
Hell in a Cell was number 5 on my list. And I gave that show an A-. I gave 4 pay-per-views an A. TLC, WrestleMania Backlash, SummerSlam, and the Royal Rumble. No A+.
Put your heart in the company.
And Sacred Monkey Bone with a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. Says Hell in a Cell match is now tomorrow. Yeah, we did mention that earlier. Right. So who else has their list ready to go?
So, Aaron, my bottom 3, the worst was the horror show.
Yeah.
I did not. My second worst was Backlash. Sorry.
Ooh,
I know you had it up there. And then Money in the Bank. So those are my bottom 3. My number 3 going from 3, 2, 1, Elimination Chamber. SummerSlam was my number 2. And Hell in a Cell, the only one that got an A- or higher, was my favorite pay-per-view during the pandemic era. Hell in a Cell. I loved it. I loved the whole just Orton winning the title, getting paid off for being the best wrestler of the pandemic. The Roman, Jay, and Jimmy thing, it just did. And Sasha dropping the title to or winning the title
from Bailey. Yep,
from Bailey just did it for me.
Well, I think if we average that out, SummerSlam would probably be the number one spot. But let's see what Jeff Meacham said overall for his list.
I had SummerSlam as my number one going into the show, and then I remembered how good Hell in a Cell was when I saw the card. So Hell in a Cell is my number one. SummerSlam's number two. Number three for me is last year's WrestleMania Night 2.
Ooh.
Bottom three for me is Extreme Rules was the worst, one of the worst things ever. Money in the Bank's the second worst, and then my number three worst was Payback. I didn't like that show at all.
Interesting.
Other than Roman winning the championship, but like I said during the review, one match the show does not save.
All right, Big G, you got your list.
Yeah, my bottom three: Extreme Rules Horror Show, Money in the Bank, and I put Backlash as well.
Wow, there you go.
Top three: number one, I put WrestleMania 37 Night 1, then SummerSlam, and then WrestleMania 36 Night 1.
Interesting. We're all kind of dancing around the WrestleManias, but SummerSlam's always in there.
SummerSlam's in all of our top three.
What's funny is SummerSlam was so good start to finish, and I think the finish of Roman coming out just sent it as our wannabe $1 million champion would say, to the moon, man. I mean, Reigns coming out there just completely ended that night with gusto. It really did.
All right, well, Michael Wayne liked my list the best, but yeah, it seems like the general consensus was that SummerSlam was the top one, and you guys gave a lot of love to Hell in a Cell.
Yes.
And that
would have been in my top five.
Which ironically, we're having a Hell in a Cell this weekend.
And what's funny is we all agreed that if SummerSlam's in front of a crowd, does that Roman moment go over like it did, or do we have a completely different scenario here a year later?
Right.
So something to think about with the crowd coming back at SummerSlam this year.
We got
in Vegas, baby.
We got a few super chats here.
Here we go. After dark time.
We have Thomas5 says, bring Brian Zane on the No DQ review. I'm all for
how about
it,
a No DQ debate?
Yeah, I'd love to see him debate Virtue. Oh my God, are you kidding me?
I'm all for it. I will let Brian Zane know there is demand for him. Virtue seems to have an issue with him, so I say let's make it happen.
I will be tuning into that one live.
He butted his nose in. He had no clue what Virtue Twitter was. That's on him, not on me. Now he knows.
All right, so we'll see if we can make that happen. And TGS sent in a $3 super chat. He says, thoughts on Shark Boy? I loved him. Oh, shell yeah.
You know, I don't TNA wise, whatever, but he was really cool to us when we went backstage XPW. So I am all in on Shark Boy. Super dude.
Yeah, I liked the gimmick. I mean, it was, what it was. It was comedy, but it was fun.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll go ahead and wrap this up with our plugs. Big G, you were happy to be here maybe the first hour or so.
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. Nobody asked me any questions or,
don't just say that. They will.
Yeah, really.
Or, they some homework I had to do, but we'll discuss that next week.
Oh, that's right. Forgot about that. Damn.
So NoDQ.com/BigBallaG takes you to my Twitter page, and you can follow me on TikTok at BigBallaG1988. That is it for me.
All right, let's throw it over to good old JM Jeff Meacham.
That's me. There's the plug I gave Aaron yesterday, so he didn't update it for me, so that's fine. I'll do it my damn self. It's all good. JeffMeachamNetwork.com, and there are all the plugs for everybody else I work with. But if you're watching on my channel right now, you're getting the plugs for my buddies Alex and Laura. So there you go. Thank you very much. All right, that's it.
All right, let's throw it over to Virtue.
Twitter, if you dare, at NoDQ_Virtue. And that's right. For the people that were saying, oh, your Troll Slayer shirt is a ripoff of Seth Rollins, whatever, sue me. Sue Aaron Rift, whatever.
Send all complaints to NoDQMisc@gmail.com.
That's right.
They will be filed away in the proper round file.
All right, now, what else were we going to say about the Montreal screw job from earlier?
I mean,
it was a shoot. It was not a work.
A total shoot. And, whatever you think about Brett now and, with his 4 out of 10 meme or whatever, he got royally shafted. He did. And you know what? I was with him for a long time, but he said in his book, "I'll never work for them again. I'll never take the money for that." He lied. Because the money came and the chance for redemption against Vince in the match. Who gives a shit about a freaking kayfabe match? You got screwed. Stand on your principles, you liar. So yeah, no. It was a shoot, and he turned it into a work for his own damn profit.
Ouch.
That's what I said.
I mean, I think it's been talked to death. Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat. Says your favorite Samoa Joe matches and moments. Okay,
I go last. I go last. Okay, all right, go ahead.
Okay, first of all, the triple threat match with Frankie Kazarian and
AJ and Chris.
AJ and Christopher Daniels. My bad.
Frankie was at Millennium Wrestling, brother.
Yeah, sorry, I got a little mixed up there. But that one stands out. Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe stands out to me. And Brock Lesnar and Samoa Joe would be his top WWE match, in my opinion. And then that SummerSlam 4-way was a really good one with Joe as well. And NXT, Joe had some good matches. Jeff, you're going to go last. Big G.
Right.
I'm good. I'll let Jeff go. I'm good.
No.
I'm good. I'm good. Go, Jeff.
Are you not a Samoa Joe fan? Oh, and Samoa Joe and CM Punk and Ring of Honor too?
Oh yeah.
I'm good. Go ahead, Jeff.
What's your problem with Samoa Joe?
Nothing.
You think he sweats too much?
No. I'm good.
All right. Okay, Virtue. Anything?
I agree. I'm going to pull Big G. I agree with all of yours. I do like the Finn Balor matches that they had in NXT.
NXT. Okay, Jeff.
Yeah.
Matches are great, but Aaron, I got 2 words for you for a moment. Pink keychain.
Pink keychain. That's a throwback to when we interviewed Samoa Joe in 2004.
In the hallway of the sweat box at PWG. That's
PWG.
It,
good time.
Like, it became a thing. Every time we would see him on the show, pink keychain, I'd be like, oh my God, it's been 3 years. Stop. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah,
good
but
stuff.
that first Samoa Joe Kurt Angle confrontation in TNA was a great moment.
Headbutt, it was so good. So intense.
And Samoa Joe choking out Paul Heyman to set up that Great Balls of Fire match was great.
And to this day, my favorite moment besides the pink keychain is the fact that somebody in my life that was involved in creating somebody else in my life is the only person in my circle that can't stand him. He was mean to me. It's like, when? Did I miss something? He was a super solid dude. So nice. Like, what the hell? Anyway, carry on.
All right. Thomas 5 with a $2 super chat says, Virtue, cut a shoot promo on Brian Zane.
What is he, a trained monkey with freaking marionettes on him? What the hell's that shit?
Roses are red. Violets are blue. Brian Zane only wishes he was Virtue.
Nice.
There you go.
All right. And Mike D sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Mike D. Since when did this become the No DQ review with the No DQ After Dark? This was supposed to be about WrestleMania. They
Tyler's
really want
fault.
a 3-hour show.
Wait, my alarm clock's going off. I got to get up for work.
Right.
Right.
It's all TGS's fault. He mentioned in the chat, is it going to be After Dark tonight? Like, oh, shit. Now he said it's here we go. So,
All right, Mike D says, do you think the CM Punk return rumors are going to heat up again since fans are coming back now? Wait a minute. Everybody on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, and then your answer. 1, 2, 3.
no.
Yeah.
No.
Really?
I hope not, because I'll be in the stadium,
yes.
and if he comes out there, I'm going to go deaf.
I'm surprised you guys said no. You know damn well those CM Punk rumors are going to be starting
Well,
up
they are
again.
now, because it's if another After Dark, it must be true. So
You know damn well we're going to get the pictures of CM Punk at the airport, wherever the pay-per-view is at.
If Tony Khan wants to win me over, okay, he can go to his Arthur Ashe Stadium and do this and that. If he's standing somewhere with CM Punk introducing him as All Elite, I will probably give him a pat on the back. That's the one thing he can do to win me over.
Wow.
Another comment in the chat about Roman Reigns and Rey Mysterio being on SmackDown. I know I'm going to post it, and then I'm sure I'll get all the comments on Facebook and Twitter. You're late, bro, posting the news. You know,
It's like we're on the air. Dick off, you jerk. Anyway,
I'm surprised he didn't put a technical difficulty timeout thing to go do that.
Right?
Yeah, I should have. All right, Psycho Jet Black with a $2 super chat says, "Who said get better security to William Regal?" Big G.
Oh, trivia question. There you go.
I have no idea.
Oh,
I have no idea.
dude, it's 10:15 at night, y'all. Let him be. Jesus.
Go to
I'm really
sleep.
honestly, I do not know. When it comes to people quoting or something like that, yeah.
I have
Wasn't
no
something-
idea who said it either. Jeff, do you know?
No friggin' clue. And I'm the
RVD?
friggin' four-time champion.
RVD or Chris Jericho? I don't know.
Tajiri.
Yeah, that's right. The jury said in Japanese. That's why we didn't know. Anyway,
All right. Well, you stumped us all, Psycho Jet Black. So congratulations.
we appreciate the donation anyway.
Even Jeff Meacham doesn't know, and he's a former wrestler.
Did they give the answer?
No.
I don't know, but we're not going to wait for it. We're
So
ready
we're
to.
getting the hell out of here. Let's go.
I got a post about SmackDown.
You clearly have to do this. It's been mentioned 4 times in the comments now.
Psycho Jet Black says it's Samoa Joe.
Oh, so on Tuesday's show. Cool. I didn't watch Tuesday's show. There you go.
We really missed it. Plus, it's past curfew, so yeah, we got to go here.
That's right.
All right, guys, take care. Stay
There's
tuned
CP
to
and I'm hangry. Let's go.
NoDQ.com.
Yeah.
NoDQ.com for the latest wrestling news and rumors. Thank you all for watching. We appreciate it. Make sure you follow everybody on social media. And on that note, wait a minute.
Ah, damn
Thomas
it.
5 sent in a $3 super chat. Says, "A, what wrestling news will crash the NoDQ website?
Punk and AEW or Punk at SummerSlam? Bottom line. Easy answer.
CM Punk showing up on Raw.
Maybe Rock coming back and challenging Roman.
But we expect that.
Honestly, I think it's CM Punk. I think he would crash it.
CM Punk showing up in either company right now would pop.
Well, yeah, because the Rock would draw in casual fans who don't run to wrestling sites.
Right.
CM Punk would draw all the wrestling geeks. So yeah, you're right.
I was in this arena the last time NoDQ completely crashed on its server because of CM Punk, so I know it's him. Anyway.
All right, guys. So on that
Okay.
note, take care. We'll see you next time.
Jesus Christ.